It's the Bennington Show. Friday. I'm Ron Bennington. There's Gail Bennington. I'm Ron Bennington. You join me tomorrow night in Fairfield, Connecticut. I'll be at the Fairfield Comedy Club. 2 shows. And quite frankly, this year, we're going to keep it a Fairfield, kids. So you don't have anything to worry about. No crooked business is going to be taking place. FairfieldComedyClub.com. Is that the...
FairfieldComedyClub.com.
All right. .com or .org?
.com.
All right, I didn't know because it is a school.
Yeah.
I pitched them a couple ideas. I said, dress as a bunny suit, and we'll give you a cocktail. They shot that down. And also, hey, bring a dog. I always thought it would be fun just that everybody at the show brings a dog.
Ladies love a guy with a dog.
That is true.
They absolutely love it.
Well, what kind of dog? Do they like a guy with a tiny dog? Or do they like a dog, like a big dog, like a setter, and you're throwing sticks?
I'm going to be honest. I think it doesn't matter. I think a girl, what she's enjoying is a man having a connection with the animal, being sweet with their dog.
I'm going to give you another one. What about a pit bull? Does she want to see a guy walking around with a pit bull? Go like this. This dog will tear your throat.
No, I don't think she wants that.
Yeah.
But like if he was like rolling around with it, like kissing its face, maybe they would like it.
I think the reason is they think, well, there's somebody who's going to like a baby.
That could be what it is. Now, see, this is something I've always wondered.
Yeah.
Does it have the opposite effect? Like, does it have the same effect on men when you see a girl with a dog?
What men like is a girl with a vagina.
Mm-hmm.
And that... Vagina. That's our version. But I'd have to say, if I see a girl with a dog, I kind of think she's high maintenance.
Really?
Yeah.
Why do you think that? Just because she has an
like
interest?
My dog has to go somewhere. Can we have this for my dog? Can I get some water for my dog?
Well, what if it was just like you just see a girl, she's walking down the street. She doesn't have necessarily like a little poodle or a little teeny dog. She just has a medium-sized dog. You see her walking down the street. She's a beautiful girl. Then you look over. She's walking to the dog park. She's playing with her dog. Is there, like, you guys feel anything about that?
Nothing. I'm going to check with the boys.
Nothing whatsoever. And actually, it's kind of a deterrent to me because look, I don't want.
It's something that he can use to clean his clothes.
Wash myself with that dog, because I don't want to hear like, oh, we got to leave this bar to go. I got to go walk the dog. I'm like, no, man, we're here.
So so what men are looking for is they'd like a woman who's just been in a pod before they met you, and then they're like they have no other issues or problems or any other obligations in life.
This is going to help you understand. I'm the dog, okay?
Yes,
I'm the dog in this relationship.
Walk me.
Vito, what about you? Are we wrong? What about the soft young men?
Your mic isn't on.
You don't even understand the business you're in.
It depends on the dog for me.
No. You got to go yes or no, black or white.
Well, yes, I would like a girl with a dog, especially if it's like a bulldog of some sort or a big dog.
Do you know why, right?
Why?
Because you're a fucking girl.
I am a girl. I guess I am a girl because I like bulldogs, but I don't like the little purse dogs. I couldn't deal with that.
Okay, and I'm going to say this. I'm done with this statement too. Everyone's like, it's just like a cool thing that dudes say. They're like, I don't like a little purse dog. First of all, little dogs are cute. Big dogs are cute. Fat dogs are cute. Skinny dogs are cute. I mean, like, I've never met a dog I didn't fucking like.
I'm going to tell you something right now when it comes to this purse dog that you say you hate. Nikki Glazer came to the stand one night. She had her dog in her purse. Did the whole set holding on to that dog, and it was one of the fucking best nights of my life. I was just cracking up looking at a dog staring at an audience.
But it's like a cliche. I hear like dudes say it all the time. They're like, "Hey, I like a dog. I don't want to see a dog who's in a purse."
Gail, what you are hearing?
The dog.
Gail, what you are hearing is rape culture.
I feel
playing
like
out right in front of you.
Raping my ears and it's raping my dog.
Little dogs are they're fucking loud and they act so blah. I like a big dog is lazy and it just
How about think for yourself, Vito?
Like don't just go with
all right, not what every dude bro out there wants.
I don't think a dude bro thing is just hating
It's a dude bro
dog.
thing.
I like
you're one of them.
Yeah, let's let the judge go. Chris, what do you think?
They call me a judge, and that's a dude bro thing.
It's very common. I've heard Chris say it many times as well. And I just think it's a made up thing. I've seen calm little dogs. I've seen little dogs that'll just like curl up on your lap. They're very sweet.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't think there's like any one. Like, I don't know why anyone would just be like, that's
because they heard other dude bros say.
Yeah, that's what I think.
Yeah.
I don't think so. I mean, the fucking Great Danes are much more fun than a Shih Tzu.
Really?
Great Danes are actually really lazy.
I love Great Danes.
I'm just saying.
But where are you going to keep it in your fucking New York apartment?
I had a Great Dane in my New York apartment.
Yeah? Did it live long?
Oh, it lived 6 years.
Thank you.
You know what else dude bros love now?
What's that?
It's fucking axe throwing.
What are you talking about?
There are
Axe body spray and axe throwing.
No, actual medieval axes. They are throwing axes in Brooklyn, New York.
Okay, hold on.
At
Can
each
I
other?
just stop you for a second?
Yes.
So we're saying dude bro, but then you're like, it's a Brooklyn thing. So which is it?
No, it's not a Brooklyn thing. It's happening in Brooklyn. That's what I'm saying.
That makes it a Brooklyn thing.
Yeah.
It's not happening in Manhattan.
It's not happening in Manhattan.
Then
yet.
it's not a fucking dude bro thing.
I think there's rules against axes in Manhattan.
I'd like for there to be in Brooklyn as well. You know, we don't want to be axed either.
No, what do? They have fights?
No, it's like there's like
It's like a god fight.
it's like a big fucking wooden dartboard, right? And then you're handed axes, and then you're flinging
Is
axes.
it a short-handled axe or a long-handled axe?
It's a short handle axe. Like, I'd say about a foot and a half, 2 feet.
Then I'm going
long.
to call that a hatchet.
I think they let you choose.
It's a big difference between throwing an axe
And a
and
hatchet.
throwing a hatchet.
I'd rather do neither, but if I'm going to pick, give me the hatchet. Because I think you could whip that thing.
Is this them doing it?
Yeah, this is
First of all,
the bar.
This is
It's
what they
more
call it,
hatchet-like.
kick axe.
Kick axe.
That's cool.
Now look at it. It looked like he almost knifed himself in the back. Why?
Yeah, but I mean,
This is annoying. What is this? I don't like
wait,
this.
she's hot. I like seeing a girl throw a hatchet.
Much more attractive to that hatchet than the dog.
I don't like to see him doing it with two hands. I think you want to do it with one hand.
I'd be too afraid that I'd release too late and I throw it at my feet.
Before we're,
Just immediately down.
Well, let me
and
tell
take
you.
the toe off.
I mean, yeah, there's got to be heavy insurance on this. I mean, it's a small fucking bar. But here's the other thing. You're saying, like, you acted like it was a trend, and yet you've only shown us one bar that does it.
This has just opened up and everyone's talking about kick axe.
That
throwing.
doesn't mean anything.
I live in this borough, and I haven't heard one person go, "Hey, you guys into the latest craze of pickaxing?" I don't know if these are pickaxes. But...
How much does it cost?
$35
Per person.
Why?
per axe?
Per person for 90 minutes of axe throwing.
That's too much axe throwing. I
Wait,
mean,
yeah,
like,
first of all, I'm not
15.
going. Yeah, I figured like I would throw one, let somebody else throw one. I don't want to just keep throwing it. I'll be so bored.
It's like
your
bowling.
arms are...
I'm gonna blow up in that 90 minutes. I'm gonna be fucking tired. Plus, I'm drinking.
Okay. By the way, I just want to say, not only do I dislike this axe thing, and
Yeah.
it's not just because it's like trendy or dude bro or whatever it is, whatever type of people this is, I don't like it. I don't know who's doing it. I don't like
Well,
it.
but if you look
Gail.
at the people in that bar, they're not dude bros and they're not hipsters.
No,
they're just regular people.
regular
And
folks.
somebody has set up a weird thing at the bar that they go to.
It's
Yes.
hype beast culture.
It
What?
really looks like someone's house more than a bar, as it is right now.
But
It's-
I will tell you, I don't like this, but I don't like any bar game. I don't like playing games at
You
bars.
know, like video games, darts, shuffleboard.
They all bug me. And I hate to go to a bar and like someone invites, oh, I'm getting together with some friends, blah, blah, blah. And I get there and there's like a thing that people are doing. Like, hey, we're all playing pool. We're all playing darts. We're all playing fucking Big Buck Hunter. I don't feel like doing that.
I don't know what Big Buck Hunter is.
It's a video game that I had an ex-boyfriend who really enjoyed playing Big Buck Hunter, and I think it ruined our relationship. Because when you, like, for me, if I go out and drink, I want to sit down, I want to have a conversation. I don't want to play kiddie games.
What's the big? Let me see what Big Buck. Oh, so you're fucking pretending that you're shooting at
Yes.
Big Bucks?
Yeah.
You know what I would have said to him? The big cuck hunter.
It's out.
Didn't you cuck him out anyway
Yeah, of course
with the
I
next
did.
boyfriend?
Of course I cucked him out.
You kind of did you?
Oh, you didn't think it was the last boyfriend. I cucked the other one, too.
Oh,
There was a lot of cucking. Look, in our youth, we're all cuckeries.
oh yeah. That's why I don't judge people. I'm not like fucking SC Cup trying to tell the Trumps what to do. I said Trump's got to do their thing, you fucking Puritan.
But is there any like bar game that you do like playing? That
I'll play shuffleboard. I'll play any of those type things. I'll play darts. I'll play pool.
I like all those things, but with the
pinball,
pinball. If there's a pinball machine, I'm at the pinball machine.
Didn't they call you Pinball Wizard?
They did for a while.
Ever since he was a young boy, he played the silver ball. From Soho up to Brighton, he must have played a ball.
Now
I've never seen anything like him in any amusement hall.
Now
that deaf, dumb, and blind kid. Sure played a pinball.
Bars are now just stocking their shelves with just board games. It's like random board games, and all the board games are all fucked up because people just spill drinks.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I see this a lot where I'll be having a nice conversation, talking, drinking. All of a sudden, you're and I look over and everyone's fucking playing Jenga, and it really bothers me.
Yeah, Jenga comes up a lot, but so Brooklyn. Well, let me say this about Gail.
Axes in it.
I knew this from Gail when she was a kid. She doesn't like anything to get away from her power drinking.
That's so true.
I've been thinking a lot about my funeral.
Oh, me too, buddy.
And
I can't wait.
No, but
I'm taking your mom. Literally.
I just want to have a funeral that's not just a regular classic funeral. I want to have one that people enjoy going to, and I want to give my.
Dude, you're not even going to draw at your funeral.
I think I'm going to get a good amount at my funeral. Just like people that think I'm like really close with them when I'm not, like those kind of people are going to show up. I don't think I'm going to have a lot of close friends show up.
Where are you going to have the funeral? Here or Jersey?
Here at Blessed Sacrament Church on the Upper West Side.
Yeah, I don't like to go to a church funeral.
That's the only one I've ever been to. I've never been to a non-church funeral.
Just like at a.
I like to show up at a place.
Parlor?
There's a remembrance, but there's no body and there's no religious people. There's like a picture of you when you were happier and younger and thinner.
Well, I want my funeral to be carnival themed, and what I want to do.
Your life has been too.
Oh
You
my
fucking.
God.
And I want all my possessions and my items to be up for grabs, and people can win tickets in carnival games at my funeral, and that's how I'll give away all my possessions instead of a will and testament.
Now, here's the okay. This idea that you have, the only person in this room that I think would have fun at a carnival themed funeral would be you, and you're dead in this scenario.
I'd be like this. They're like, "Hey, you want to play one of the games?" I'm like, "I'm a little broke up right now." He's very fond of the kid.
Yeah, I mean,
so you know what I mean. I don't
young.
feel like throwing a dart at a balloon and seeing if I get an ottoman from him.
No, but like it'll be fun stuff, like the water gun game where you shoot the clown thing. It'll be my head.
We're all look. This goes to show you're still a child. Number one, hopefully your belongings, which is junk to the rest of us, might mean something to your wife and children.
They get the money. This is just the garbage that I have. The couches.
They're still living in that house. She still needs a couch.
Yes.
I mean, like, this is ridiculous.
And you're
like
fucking
King
bobblehead.
Tut. You want to be fucking you throw her on the fucking pyre when you're done?
She can buy her own new furniture.
You want to put that big
like.
dog of yours, that big fucking settler, whatever you had?
I'll give away the Great Dane too if I have a Great Dane at
Dude,
this point.
You're not giving away any of this. And guess what? Your funeral isn't up to you.
Yes.
It's to the people after you. Like when a lot of people go, well, I don't want a church service. Someone's like, okay. And then when you die, they do whatever they want to do.
Yes, exactly.
The funeral isn't for the dead person. It's for the survivors.
It's for the grievers. It's what's most comfortable for them.
What if I put my will and testament that the only thing I want is this?
I hope
Doesn't
they don't.
mean anything.
People are starting to be fucked up over it.
Yeah, like they're going to be sad, Vito. People are going to be really sad. They're not going to be like giggling and being like, I just want
a
an ottoman.
bobblehead. I want a fucking bobblehead.
I have a lot of bobbleheads.
Guess what? If I won one of your bobbleheads, you'd see it in the fucking trash outside the funeral parlor.
Don't do that.
Good. First of all, don't make it about you. It's about hopefully your wife and children.
Yes.
They're going to have a ball.
No, they're not going to have
nobody
a ball.
has a
Their
ball at a
dad
funeral.
is dead. You should
Just 'cause
know.
you didn't care
Remember
that
when your dad died? Did you feel like paying?
He wasn't even told.
I was given a toy car the day my dad died. And that's a good way to look at it. That my dad died and I got a toy and everything's fine now. And I'm fine with death and I'm fine with my dad's death. So that's a good
And
way.
please do me a favor and hang yourself right over top of his gravestone.
No, I'm like, what kind of
I'm not
gifts-
doing this to your mother. I'm not.
She'll be there, by the way.
Of course you
I'm
will.
going that young.
It's going to be fucking It's going to be before school starts again in the fall. I figure late August.
I won't have that many possessions by then.
But these possessions, what other than the fucking bobbleheads, what are we talking about?
TV?
Everyone has a flat screen.
You know, no one buys a fucking used TV anymore. You know what I mean?
That would be a burden. If someone told me I had to leave a funeral with a TV, I don't have the space for this.
Plus, you've already got one. This isn't 1954.
My folding bike?
I'll
folks,
take that, I guess.
Before I bring up his best friend Ian to say a couple words, I'd like everybody to please check. I'm going to be giving away 10 bobbleheads.
I would like the idea of just like a claw machine filled with your old clothes.
Oh my God. I just want to see somebody small win his pants and be holding them up with his arms out like that.
I mean, that'll be a fun photo op.
Hey, coming up a little later on in the show, we'll be doing an unmasked, Chris.
With Roy Wood Jr. That's coming up at 2 p.m. His show, This Is Not Happening, is on tonight at midnight.
And we're also got another guest coming in talking about the fact that the Comedy Cellar, probably the most iconic club in the country right now, is opening up a branch in Las Vegas.
Yeah, that's opening in this Thursday, April 5th. Noam Dwarman will be in studio.
Do we know even who the acts are? We're going to ask Noam about that.
We're going to ask Noam about that.
Sweet. So this is a very big move for Noam and Vito. Having Noam come in like this, could I get something fronted to me from your wonderful funeral prizes?
I mean, yeah. I mean, it'll take away from my inventory, but
You're the only person that thinks owning a toy is something an American male would do. Like, I had toys when I was little. My mom threw them in the trash, of course, because I growed up.
Mm-hmm. He growed up and he growed up and he growed up.
I didn't think somebody's going to want this Cecil and Beanie Boy to play with.
What was Beanie Boy?
That was a Bob Clampett cartoon. It was loved by children and kind of hippies, dope smoking hippies at the time.
Really?
Yeah, it was almost like an Adult Swim.
Oh,
And there's
yeah.
Beanie Boy.
That's so cute.
And
Look
Cecil.
at Cecil.
And my big sister had given me both the things. And I remember, like, this is how good my memory is. I would be going somewhere, and my big sister would go, "Don't you want to take Beanie Boy and Cecil with you?" And I was like, "Yeah," but I remember thinking, "Not really." We're going over to my aunt's house. Pretty excited about seeing my cousins, but I would take it because I wanted to be like
the good boy.
Yeah, I wanted to be the good boy.
Yeah. But you know, she just really wanted it to go over well. She's
Yeah.
like really wanted you to build a connection to Cecil and Beanie Boy.
Yeah. Well, there they are. Cecil and Beanie Boy. Another Bob Clampett cartoon. You all right, Chris?
I
This
hope
has been going
so.
on for a week again. The cancer's back. And they say when it comes back 10 times stronger.
You know what? I beat it once. I guess I'm going to have to just beat it back again.
Yeah.
Guess who's back? Back
This
again.
is dark.
Cancer's back.
Here's his two problems. He has recurring cancer and just a nonstop chlamydia.
Just a light case of chlamydia.
The Costa Rican strain of chlamydia.
It just, no matter how many antibiotics I take, it just won't go away.
Chris, try to win me something nice at that funeral, man. I'd love to get an American TV. He had a cooler TV, man. Hey, we're going to that axe throwing thing. It reminds me of walking to school
Oh my God.
when I had to kill iguana. I smoked marijuana. Now, his thing is nuts. Chris's thing is totally made up. One bar gets an axe throwing thing, and he wants to make a big deal about it.
And he's saying everyone in Brooklyn, every bar has an axe.
Yeah.
Kick axe. So it's really one bar, is what you were talking about?
It's one big bar.
one pocket.
It's not that big. I can see the video.
It's huge.
You made the mistake of showing the video. That thing looks like anyone else's fucking power.
I want you guys.
Look how small this
And
place
wasn't it
is.
pitched as what he said just now? He goes, it's like all over the new
Yeah.
hipster craze. all over Brooklyn.
Because the hipster dude bro craze.
The hipster dude bro craze. They're sick of darts and pinball, Ron. They need axes.
You've realized that you made up a lie for us to talk about.
I didn't. I'm not lying.
It's one fucking place. I'm sure you can go to another place and there's motorcycle races. That doesn't mean like, what's the fuck with these Brooklyn people constantly riding motorcycles? There's a fucking white supremacist bar over there. Doesn't mean that everybody's white supremacists.
I hope they don't team up with the axe throwing bar.
They will, Vito, and then we'll all be white supremacists. No, supremacist, that means the best, right?
Yeah.
What would you say if somebody was secondary? You know?
I guess I wouldn't be that impressed by him.
No, but I'm saying, what would the word be? You fucking dope.
He's searching.
You axe-throwing dope.
He's searching for the word. Essentially, the word for if you were saying alpha and beta.
Yeah.
Right.
So then
Where's
you were
the
saying
beta?
supremacy, and then what would be just below supremacy?
That I don't know.
Normalcy?
You're too big. I do believe in white normalcy. It's a normal way to be. Well, we're the normal ones, aren't we, guys? So this should be our country. As normal as we are. White suburban people. Hold on, I gotta say hi to my neighbor Frank. Hey, Frank. How's it hanging, bro? Great guy. Great guy. Met him at my dentist's office. Hi. Talking Heads, greatest fucking band that ever lived.
So good.
Broke up over an axe fighting thing that they had in Brooklyn one day.
It's a shame, man.
Well, I'll tell you this, Chris.
Yeah.
You literally did better than Vito when coming up with a fucking Friday topic.
Thank you. I'm going to take that.
You shouldn't.
But I have to.
You guys
That's like me saying, well, you're a better speller than Corky. Congratulations.
You guys would love my funeral where you could win the collector's set of Lost on Blu-ray.
I'm going to tell you right now, it ain't happening, dude. It ain't happening. We don't do that when people die.
No, it's not about
make
you.
A fucking neighborhood carnival.
You're making us all grave robbers. This is fucked up.
And your stuff is shit.
I don't want it.
I don't want your fucking red wagon and then be walking it back to the east side.
What about seasons 1 through 4 of 24 on DVD?
I wouldn't even know where to put a fucking DVD. Okay?
What am I going to get? A Keith Hernandez jersey?
And plus, talk about white supremacists. That's all that fucking show was. You're basically watching a fucking Nazi show.
He's all right.
Win jerseys of all sizes from all my different weights.
Oh, yeah, all extra larges.
Triple X and up.
He's fucking his favorite wrestler is Triple X. Do we need to break, Chris? I know we got shit going on today, right?
Yeah, we need to break.
All right, so coming up a little later on Unmasked, and the thing that Chris doesn't want to tell you about is I will be in Fairfield, Connecticut tomorrow night. Please come out. It's a family show. I'm going to make all those little fuckers laugh.
2 shows, 7 p.m. and 9 p.m. That's at Fairfield Comedy Club in Connecticut tomorrow night.
7 p.m.?
7 p.m. and 9 p.m.
Oh, they fucking roll the sidewalks up early there in Fairfield, huh?
FairfieldComedyClub.com for tickets.
I'll be doing the fucking show when I'm shading my eyes from the sun coming in. I can't quite see it there, but where are you from, sir? Plug the gate.
All right. That's Fairfield Comedy Club. Ron will be there tomorrow night in Connecticut, Saturday, March 31st. 2 shows, 7 p.m., 9 p.m. FairfieldComedyClub.com for tickets.
All right, kids, let's keep it at Fairfield. We'll be right back. Bennington.
Raw Dog Comedy. Sirius XM 99 and on the Sirius XM app.
The Bennington Show. Ron Bennington, Gail Bennington.
Ew.
Connor's here. We're going to do a GPS. It's going to be a London GPS, but it's going to be like late 60s, early 70s.
Yes, because music changes so dramatically in such a short time.
Then, yes.
Yeah.
Not like now.
No. Still poppy.
Yeah, it's still very poppy, these poppy and a weird hip hop that I don't even understand. Like, I'm actually nostalgic for gangster rap.
Me
Like,
too.
I wish we'd go back to that. It was so melodic.
Coolio? I wish we had it.
So, obviously the Beatles are the band of the early 60s. Who would you
Yeah.
say is the band of the late 60s?
I mean, there's so many, but I would say Led Zeppelin. That was just because they were around for the early times and
Yeah.
they weren't really known.
Yeah.
Not that they weren't known, but they weren't known to the public or the average listener.
Right.
And they kind of were the geniuses, and they were like, "We're just going to give you the most rawest thing that we could think of. That's the most insane stuff you could do with 3 instruments."
When do you think Led Zeppelin peaked?
Peaked?
Yeah. Led Zeppelin 4?
Their entire career. I don't know.
You don't think they had an off album? I'm going to take you to Houses of the Holy right now.
Listen,
I'll take you to Coda if I have to.
17-year-old Connor
Yeah.
loved every single one of those albums.
That's beautiful.
My favorite album, I think, is Presence.
Oh.
I think that was my favorite.
Now,
Chris?
they
What am I
just
talking to Chris?
they just keep making that kid. That kid keeps existing where they find Led Zeppelin in their youth. It's usually a young male. Like even me, like I knew Led Zeppelin. I listened to some Led Zeppelin, but of older rock music, that wasn't like the thing I sunk my teeth into. But so many of the young men that I was friends with, like that was their.
I'd say that you're into Led Zeppelin most when you're wearing that Tennessee tuxedo. You know what I mean? That you've got denim jacket,
Yep.
denim pants, and sometimes you're writing on your back. You know what I mean? Zeppelin to me is always the band of the 70s more than,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like that's the 70s band.
What about the transition of the Who? Where would you put them as far as
Well, see, they were British Invasion,
Yeah.
but at the same time, they, were an arena band.
Yeah.
They ended up being a really big light show,
They
giant
transitioned
speakers.
at 1970. Like
Yeah.
it was right before that. You had the Who Sells Out,
Mhm.
and you had a couple like those like mop top songs, but then there was Bargain on there,
Yeah.
and then 2 years later you had Who's Next, which is nothing but synthesizers and big things and big power chords, and it was like the product of the 60s. The 60s happened, the craziness, and then the music came a little bit after, and it all came out in the early 70s.
I also think in this period, we have to have Blind Faith, Cream,
Yeah.
Eric Clapton, whatever the hell
Yeah.
he was doing then.
All 20 of the
Yeah, all
of the
20 of the
projects,
bands.
that's a separate GPS.
But he is, and I do love somebody who's like, look, I'm in different bands and I don't make a big deal out of it. You know what I mean? Like the Beatles, they made such a big deal about breaking up. Fucking Clapton just walked away from whatever he was doing. And by the time everybody could be sad, he had a new band, new sound, new album. Tried to join the band, they said. Went to fucking Woodstock and said, like, I'd be great with you guys. And Robbie Robertson's like, well, we got a guitar player named Robbie Robinson. I mean, you're coming to the one guy, in the band who would be like, we got somebody.
Right. And it's me.
Yeah.
Like, I still want to be in the band. So,
And he was kind of in the Beatles for a brief moment.
Yes.
George Harrison, one
Yeah.
of the greatest guitar players of all time, was like, "No, you take the solo.
You take it."
You could go ahead." In the song called "My Guitar Gently Weeps," about guitars or about playing guitar, almost. He's
Yeah.
like, you could play on it.
So what Beatles song best? Because this is the end of the Beatles. We got to put that.
you got to
in the
go.
London
I mean,
GPS.
you definitely got to go like trippy Beatles. That's what we're talking. That more experimental.
trippy or kind of sad leaving the Beatles. Like they went trippy right into that Abbey Road, Let It Be.
Yeah.
Where they were just like, well, this is it. You could hear them downshifting.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You hear George Harrison saving songs in the background.
Oh, yeah. I
Out of
still
the
think
way.
out of all the Beatles, the best solo album of all time is
Oh,
George Harrison's.
Absolutely.
I think he was the only one that had that on the mind,
Yeah.
too. The rest of them, I don't know what they were doing because Paul McCartney did Wings.
Yeah.
He did another band.
I mean, Plastic
Yeah.
Ono Band is great, but I feel like
But the fucking All Things Must Pass is genius pop.
it's the best.
It's
Yeah.
genius Indian pop. I mean, no one's come close to whatever that weird sound is.
Yeah. It's definitely my favorite.
All right. It's going to be tough to find the Beatles song that matters, but to me, this is the period where the Stones kind of took that top-notch thing
Yeah.
from the Beatles. And what do we do there? Are we doing Let It Bleed, Exile Main Street?
I feel Let It Bleed.
Let It Bleed.
Because Exile on Main Street is such a massive album, and I kind of like listen. That's like one of those album listens. I feel like Let It Bleed had a lot of great
hits,
singles on it. Yeah, like
Yeah.
a bunch of like one of those like hit parade single machine albums. Exile's an experience.
Now, by the way, when you talk about the Stones, and I have a favorite period of the Stones, and it might be my favorite period of rock and roll, and it's all Mick Taylor. And at no point does anybody talk about, oh, who's the greatest, who's the best. But the whole Mick Taylor fucking period of the Stones is unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
What else is different other than Mick Taylor?
It must have been him.
Yeah.
It had to be him. It had to be you.
Wonderful Mick.
Mickey.
There was also like a transitional album where they were like going with the times instead of choosing to stay behind. Kind of, I think they embraced the counterculture changing and and started playing more harder blues too. Like Midnight Rambler is like a murder song.
It is a murder opera.
Yeah.
Taking the point of the murderer. Taking the serial killer and saying, this is me. I'm the Midnight Rambler. Cheer. Okay, and here's the thing where I'm the devil. Cheer. Man, so many of these. To me, two of the great live bands of all time. Humble Pie has got to make it.
Mm-hmm.
And now the Small Faces become the Faces. And that's just a fucking great rock and roll band. Just a great live rock and roll band.
And everyone that came out of that went on to do awesome things too. And were like players, like guys that moved around, moved into the Rolling Stones.
Yeah.
Moved in. And that was kind of like, and that's also what makes I like it.
Moved
it's very
into
much
The Who.
Into the Who. And it's very much a scene where these guys were like, I need to play like this bluesy rock. You know, I'm for hire. After Ooh La La.
Plus, they had a full bar on the stage.
Yeah.
So you would go over and mix yourself a drink.
I like the idea of like a complex cocktail.
And they would
just
also
like pour yourself a drink. Like
they'd also tell the audience, to the birds in the audience, what hotel? Come on over. We're going to be partying tonight.
Oh God.
There wasn't. The security then was very lax, is the best way to put it.
It was more like comedy.
It was.
Like you could just go hang out with the band afterwards. Like, hey, I just heard you guys. That was great.
Give me another band that you feel like has to be in this.
Another band? I mean, we have Jimi Hendrix. Even though he wasn't English, no one really paid attention to him until he went to England in a place that I think was more open to craziness. And also, if you look at like, because when I do this, I look at the years.
Yeah,
the earliest one is Hendrix in '66. They weren't ready. Like no one was ready for it, and like Stone Free or something like that. That's like super psychedelic, and that's before. Kind of like before Zeppelin. You know, it is before Zeppelin. It's when the Yardbirds were happening and they were all in different projects.
Well, you definitely saw that Clapton reacted to Hendrix. Page reacted to Hendrix. Everybody. If you were playing the guitar, you're like, now what?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And they all upped their game. You could hear it like, because that time period is some of the greatest guitar playing ever happened. So
if you really want to hear like, and I know it's not Chris's favorite band, but if you really want to hear when Heavy Got Heavy, that first Sabbath album. I remember my brother had that album, and the first time I listened to it, it was like I saw a fucking horror movie. You know what I mean? Like I just understood dread for the first time. Like as a little child, I was like, okay, there's such a thing as dread and doom and nothingness.
they'd probably love hearing that.
Yeah.
That's what they were going for. They were like, I want to bum some little kids out.
It was like I suddenly understand why people kill after listening to that album.
Now, what about the Kinks? Is that too early of a
No,
sound?
because the Kinks made a change, a very Beatlesque change. So the Kinks do belong there. There's no doubt the Kinks belong there.
They also, like, it's not here. This is definitely later than this, but then they got super into the rock opera when the rock opera happened.
What was that, Preservation?
Yeah, Preservation Village Green was the first one. And it has a good Village Green. The song on it is a great song, very 60s, very, very flower power.
Yeah.
And I think they were trying to get into that while they were going into flower power. Everybody else was going into let's go as heavy as we can and loud as we can, walls of Marshall stacks and things like that.
Who else from that era?
Deep Purple?
I love the fact that Deep Purple be part of that. Because I think you got to look at Deep Purple. Sabbath was kind of the earliest roots of Eddie metal.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And they were far away from London. They were kind of in the sticks.
Yeah.
So they
Where
brought
are they
it
from?
Birmingham.
Okay.
Which isn't the sticks. It's like a steel town.
Right.
It's
like being from Pittsburgh.
Yeah, it's like being from Pittsburgh and going to New York, basically. But they were outside of Birmingham where they would go into the city to work, and a lot of those things closed down, and their dads didn't have jobs, and there was nothing, absolutely nothing for them. So that's a lot of anger, very, very poor, you know what I mean? You're just angry, and that's what makes, kill music. That's what murder music.
I wish there was one of these bands I didn't go see. I could just... Other than the Beatles, of course, I didn't say. Hendrix I never saw. But most of these bands I did go. Uriah Heep has got to make it. Traffic I saw too, and that was just unbelievable.
Uriah Heep is a band I feel like I know very little about, but I know them as a touchstone, but I don't think I actually know much
there would
Uriah
be no
Heep.
Judas Priest or anything like that without Uriah Heep. Even the way they dress and how they play and the equipment they use. Uriah Heep is
such a good name. It's such a good band name.
It is what became heavy metal.
It is a magician's birthday that we'd like you to attend. But they
holy shit! Look at how badass.
Yeah, and everybody else was wearing floral and stuff, and they got the biker jackets and the.
They were a fucking train wreck of a band. They really were. You knew that this band was going to implode. There was no other way around it.
And then right after them, Motorhead and stuff like that started coming out of England. That's the new wave of British heavy metal, which came in the late 70s, is pretty much, I think, because of this band.
All right, we're doing this all from GPS London. Let's go late 60s, early 70s. But nothing from 73 when we start to glam up a little more.
Got it.
There can be no glam in this party. But the Stones got pretty fucking heavy during that time too.
They really embraced, I think Keith had a lot to do with that, and I think they really embraced what they wanted to play earlier on before they were put in suits to be.
Right.
Even though they were the black hat band, as they said they were still selling music to teenagers.
Yeah,
and this was for the guys. They were kind of more grown up now. They were on their own. They wanted something heavier. So this is, I think, pure Stones.
I want to agree with that. This is Junkie Stones.
Yeah.
This is the perfect. We're going to have Hell's Angels people stab.
Yeah, this is where people get killed
stuff.
at shows. This is
because we pushed this idea that we wanted to have a bigger show than fucking Woodstock. Well, our show goes in a different way. It ends, sadly, with people being beat with bull sticks while tripping. That's the thing. You're tripping balls off and some fucking Hells Angels hit you with a pull stick. That's a bad fucking trip.
What was
That's
the catalyst for that? Like, what was the inciting incident?
Well, there was 500,000 people.
Yeah.
And there was no barricade to the stage. And the stage looked like it was about 1.5 feet, 2 feet high. And so the Stones tried to put their bikes up to be like, these motorcycles are going to be in front of the stage. And people were touching the fucking motorcycles, and that drives the fucking angels crazy.
And it was marketed like this is going to be like the desert Woodstock. So they said, "Oh, it's cool if I go on stage."
Right.
And it was not. It was not cool. And also, the Hell's Angels ran out of beer an hour prior, so they were they were very angry.
Oh, God.
Now, here's this is a loose thread here. Are we playing any of the late '60s, early '70s Pink Floyd? Do we have the time?
To. No.
No, we have the time
but we
for an
have
entire
to. We'll figure it
album
out.
You cut a few other bands.
Yeah, right.
Pink Floyd in.
We're just going to play their 12-minute epic echoes, and that'll be fine. I think you'll get the idea of late 60s London if you listen to that.
To me, too. And this is, I'm going to guess, Gail and Chris have never heard the Peter Green Fleetwood Mac.
Yeah, and it's
era.
completely different. And I love
completely
it.
different.
Yeah, it. I have heard it, and it's a very different vibe.
It's nothing to do with the later Fleetwood Mac.
And it very much is like when I first was making the list, it was like Fleetwood Mac looks so out of place, but I knew that if it's Peter Green, it goes with it perfectly. And if you look at what Peter Green did afterwards, it makes so much sense because he immediately started doing albums like with Rory Gallagher and stuff like that, and stayed in the blues. And even when everyone else moved on and went on to arena rock, he was like, I want to keep it blues. So I feel like he's one of the most pure dudes
that
doing
there
this.
is. Yeah.
I've never heard any Peter Green era Fleetwood Mac.
Well, that's because you are a lacy little California girl.
That's me.
I mean, I get you, Chris. I feel you. That's where my heart is, too. You got to know your history.
We're just a couple Cali girls.
I love to twirl.
I'm going to say 2 words to you guys. A band that kicked it out in America, the Fillmore East, the Fillmore West. Some say Patti Smith's favorite band. Humble Pie.
I thought they were going to start playing as soon as it started.
Chris, that would have been killer.
He doesn't do that. Humble Pie to me, one of the funnest bands all time.
Yeah, that was one of the, when I started really getting into music, that was like one of the, and I got a record player. That was one of like it wasn't my dad's records. It was like my weird uncle gave me a Humble Pie record. It was the live record.
Yeah.
So that's like it.
Well, first of all, if it's not a live record, don't listen to it because they put out a bunch of live.
And that was their thing, right? I mean, they were just,
they're
like
just
a
a
killer
great
live band.
But you like them from that other earlier. You love Steve Marriott. We've talked about him before. That guy looked as cool holding a guitar as most great players look playing guitar. Like he, to me, set up what you're supposed to look like. Just fucking holding a guitar. That's the pure what became 60s and 70s look.
That's not a chord. He's just holding it.
Yeah. He's fucking fine. And Peter Frampton was with that band, so people, realized that Peter Frampton became like the biggest act of the mid to late 70s, but they didn't realize he was in this fucking blues band.
And that's a perfect example that this era right here is the transition between psychedelic 60s stuff to what was 70s arena rock, which was the go-to until the 80s.
Yeah.
Pretty much. So this is intro to the 70s where so much music happened.
Arena rock really did have the, let's say 73 to maybe, I still think Guns N' Roses is arena rock. You know what I mean? So you're going late 80s all the way up until the grunge
sound systems finally could handle it, and before then you could only do like the Fillmore East. If Humble Pie was 10 years after, they'd be doing Madison Square Garden or something.
You're right. Could you imagine seeing those places in a little club like the Fillmore East? It had to be just.
You could actually see the band instead of a giant TV next to the band.
Well, what was funny is The giant TVs took a long time of arena rock before we got them.
Yeah, I grew up with the big TV.
Down.
I don't know how you guys did it.
Yeah. I don't know if the big TV helps. You say sucks. I don't know. I don't think you get anything out of a big TV.
It's really weird because then, like, you're not watching the fucking stage.
Yeah.
And then
your eye is always going to go to the thing that you can see the detail better. So your eye is always going to go back to focusing because you're going to crave to be able to see the facial expressions or anything like that. And then you realize you spent like 75% of the show like watching TV that you're in the room for.
Let's face it, your eye is always going to go to a TV.
Yeah.
You know, just like when somebody has a phone up at a concert, you're looking at the phone.
Yeah.
A lot of times I'm like, center that. You know what I mean? I'm like, what am I doing paying attention to that?
I know. It's so annoying.
There's a lot of bands now that don't do much on stage now because there's a big TV behind them. I went to one arena show where there wasn't a big TV, and it was a modern band, and it was at Madison Square Garden. I was bored out of my mind. It was terrible. Not terrible. The music was all right. But yeah, it was Death Cab for Cutie.
But but yeah, you're right. Like Rod Stewart had to work that way because he's working the back of the room. Mick is working the back of the room. The Who, they were working big when they were, going to be small. Janice, these people had a lot of showmanship. Once the big TVs come in, you're playing it like you are a film. You've got to make it even smaller.
Yeah, it's like the difference between like film acting and theater acting, which is like super over the top, and you're supposed to be that way in theater.
Yeah. Now, Vito is obviously a film actor, but Chris Stanley, he's bigger than life. He's a theater actor. Okay,
yeah, thank you.
He's got grease paint in his anus
at all times.
Why? It doesn't do anything.
I feel like it belongs there. That's all.
All right, this is GPS London, late 60s, early 70s. When are we going to be doing this, Chris?
That'll be airing April 7th, Saturday, April 7th, 3 p.m. on Deep Tracks Channel 27.
All right. Let's figure out what songs we want to play by some of these bands still. It's a fucking tough one. Like, if you had to pick the Stones, who would you pick for late 60s, early 70s Stones?
I say Monkey Man. I'm a big fan of that song.
Monkey Man.
I mean, I was thinking Gimme Shelter because we were just referencing it. Like, is that just the way to go?
Anything off Let It Bleed that year.
Yeah, I think the thing about Monkey Man is that's almost like a little shined up, a little high production. And I think that we're looking a little grittier.
I mean, Midnight Rambler, Good Murder
live
song
version
might be live. I feel like there's going to be a lot of live.
Yeah, I like the idea of that. What if we just call it to bring it back a live show? What Who song do we do?
I don't know.
Well, there's
a lot.
Yeah, I mean,
I could See for Miles is a great one. Bargain. That if you want to keep it in the 60s, because that's where I feel like they launched a lot of the want to go for a bigger feel on the records,
right?
Too, because they were like Bargain sounds like you're becoming one with the universe and everything like that.
What year is Tommy?
That was 70.
1970.
I think later.
Really?
I think it was mid 70s.
69.
Really?
That's 69. All right, we'll do their thing and go to their discography. I'll go all the way down so you can see what's coming next. Up higher than that. Go up higher. There's not a thing where you can just go.
Yeah, I'm grabbing the discography now.
Okay.
Here we go.
Who's Next is 71, which we could still do.
Quadrophenia, Too Late.
Yeah. They went like on and off with the rock opera. Like one just awesome rock record and then one double album rock opera.
The Who Sell Out is really what we're talking about, though. That giant fucking.
Yeah, and also Who's Next would be the next album with some good hits on it.
The Who's Next is. What are you doing, Chris? It's got to be in anybody's top If it's not top 5, it's got to be every single person's top 10.
Like if you just look at that,
I know.
like that, the first 2 and the second 2 are possibly the only songs that rock radio plays now.
True.
Yeah, that's like every 5 songs, it's one of those songs.
It's almost the greatest hits album that came out in the kind of the middle of their career.
Weird. I did not remember. I Won't Get Fooled Again is that long.
Oh yeah,
Because I was thinking that song, and I did not remember it was that lengthy.
That long breakdown with just the drum solo and the
yeah.
The actual song's probably 2 minutes. But.
Yeah, that's how I was thinking in my mind.
There was a lot of times where Daltrey was just standing. The microphone. Everything about him was pretty good. He was in here one day, and I couldn't believe how tiny he was.
Really?
He may be the smallest man I've ever seen in my life.
I had no idea.
Oh man!
And in concert, he looks like a giant.
A giant. I always thought like he looked like the perfect rock and roll star. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And yet, it's not his band. He's not the front man for the band. As big as he is, everyone's like, well, it's Pete Townshend's band.
Yeah.
He looks so much like a rock star. He looks like the guy Led Zeppelin drew on their cover.
That's true. There is some truth to that. He was the actual golden god. All right, well, this is going to be fun. We're doing this when, Chris?
Saturday, April 7th at 3 p.m. East on Deep Tracks Channel 27.
And we got to be getting fairly to the end of how long GPS can last.
I don't know. I think we could still keep pulling them out.
I love this one, though.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't even know if we can top this one. This is going to be the biggest rock hits of all time.
Yeah.
Of just straight rock hits.
Like if you are about the rock.
Right. We're putting zero pop into this. Not even a lot of Van Roll. You know, when you're talking Cream,
this is rock.
That's the beginning of rock.
All 844 rock gods are in this GPS.
I love it. What numbers are you putting up at me, Chris?
Yeah, about have to break in a couple minutes.
Right. Why?
You catch up on some breaks.
What's coming up next here on the Old Bennington Show?
Roy Wood Jr. Unmasked is coming up in about a half hour.
Yeah. Love that Roy Wood.
Me too.
I always say this. Who would do it? Roy Wood. That's what I do. Junior. He's a fun guy, though, right?
Yeah, he is. Really, really fun and very thoughtful dude.
Dude, what is the name of the comedy band that plays rock stuff with people? We saw them in...
Oh, that's
Goddamn
Comedy Jam. So we see Roy Wood in Montreal. And he gets up and he's telling this story about being on a pier and a fat guy trying to surf, and they were laughing, and Roy Wood was fucking doing mushrooms with his friends, and they were laughing, and finally the fat guy gets up, and everybody's going crazy because he's been trying all day, and Roy was on the pier and is running next to him. He's so excited, and he's yelling, "Hey!" and the guy's yelling, "Yay!" back, and we're dying at this story, and then he fucking says, and that is what happens in comedy. You just keep going and going and going. And then he's saying, if you see any of these guys walking around with these things, that's because they just kept going. They've all been taking care of business. And they kick in the Bachman Turner classic. And then Roy Wood just fucking destroys that song.
So
it was
good.
one of the funnest times of our entire life.
We went fucking bad shit.
It was the shit.
Dude, I had Randy Bachman in not too long ago. He covered all this Harrison stuff. One of my favorite people ever.
Yeah?
Just still as enthusiastic.
So much passion and heart. Yeah.
That's
One of the few people in history that's had a #1 radio hit with 2 different bands. That's how hard that is to do. Isn't that weird when you think about it?
You normally stick with the golden goose.
Yeah.
And he just like, nah.
Now, which one of those bands would you rather go out and see? Bachman Turner, Overdrive, or Guess Who?
Guess Who, maybe?
I know it's it for me.
Yeah.
I'd much rather see Guess Who.
Yeah.
I think so.
I think the thrill. I mean, I've seen Bachman Turner Overdrive when I was a kid.
Yeah.
But to fucking see American Woman live,
Yeah.
I might pull my own fucking skin off. Did we throw them into our Canada show? They're a Toronto band, right? Or are they Western Canada?
I think they are Western Canada. I think we wanted to.
Maybe there's got to be a Vancouver or whatever. The fuck
We can make it
it's
happen.
A big,
See, they keep on coming out.
Yeah, they keep
You keep thinking
happening.
there's no more. And
All right, we got a break here. Kind of thank you so much, buddy.
of course.
He puts all these GPS together. Chris, we don't even tell people where it's going to be at, GPS?
A GPS that's airing April 7th, Saturday, premiering 3 p.m. East on Deep Tracks Channel 27.
Deep Tracks, huh?
Deep Tracks Channel 27.
This time we're not going as deep as we normally go. I mean, we do belong on Deep Tracks because some of our shit never even played on rock radio before.
We go deep.
I don't know why we're playing this song out of everything that we've been talking about here today.
For Roy Wood Jr. That's coming up in about a half hour.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point. You make total sense. That's why this guy's the best in the business.
I know, it's true.
Yeah.
He's the guy behind the guy behind the guy.
He's the gay behind the gay behind the gay.
That's me.
Daisy chain, we call him.
No, Chris.
He takes something that was done lightly and in fun.
And then it's making
turn it into
fun
male
of
rape.
you, and then you're saying, I do like that. And it doesn't make it fun for us anymore.
The way he said like that, it was like he was pushing his penis into an ass while another penis was coming into his ass.
Yeah, that's what I
the
heard.
sound that he made.
That's what I heard.
What's the fucking turn on?
You ever see that movie Human Centipede, Chris?
Oh,
Have I? The sequel as well.
Oh, there's one.
There's
So is
more
that
than
what
one.
Is it millipede?
Might be up to 3 now.
I think Netflix is running it as a series. I think it's going to lose something. Right back, Bennington.
In studio is Noam Dwarman. The Comedy Cellar at the Rio in Las Vegas opens Thursday, April 5th. Go to comedycellar.com for more information.
Good to see you, buddy, and congratulations for this.
Thank you very much, Ron. Thank you for having me on.
You know, you were just saying as you come in, I didn't know that was you playing all the instruments on that.
Yep.
And you wrote the song.
Wrote it and played it. Yep.
That's the real...
And recorded it.
That's the real first love, right?
That's
Music.
the first love, yeah.
Yeah. So this is a day job for you, just having a comedy empire spreading across the United States. Day job.
Well, I lucked into it. I mean, it wasn't what I set out to do, yeah.
Yeah.
But I like it, you know.
Yeah.
I have a knack for it, I guess.
Yeah, you certainly do have a knack for it, and you who saw this a couple years ago of you going to Vegas, right?
Well, I'd been trying to do it for a while. You know, listen, to be honest, I don't know how Vegas is going to do, and I'm a little pessimistic about it. I don't know if is it okay? Is it okay for me to talk like that?
Hey, it's your deal. You might as well be the one.
I mean, I don't want to discourage anybody from coming. I'll tell you this: the club is going to be beautiful. Like even in all my pessimism, I haven't spared a single expense. I'm spending money hand over fist to try to make it just fantastic. You know, we spent all this money on an epoxy floor. And then I came in, I did a microphone test, and I thought the room is a little bit too reverberant. So now I'm putting a carpet on top of the glue on top of, you're like ruining the floor. Like I'm not holding back, but I'm really learning that it's very, very hard to project your name in a meaningful way into Vegas.
Right.
And like, you know, if you get off the airplane, you know that Penn and Teller, they're in the same hotel as us. You know that Penn and Teller are there. Like you don't by the time you get out of the cab, you've seen Penn and Teller all over.
Yeah.
But for a 250 seat room or 300 seat room, it's hard to pull out the stops like that and be cost effective. So, and that may sink us. I don't know.
Well, Penn and Teller, are they doing their own marketing? That's something that they put back into it. It's always kind of odd to know how that works.
I don't know the answer to that. I know they have more leverage than I did. That's for sure.
Yeah.
And but you know, I think I miscalculated a little bit. But if I didn't do it, like I'm totally psychologically prepared to take the loss. But if I didn't do it, I'd be like, oh, I can't believe I had an opportunity to be in Vegas and I didn't try it. So
yeah, you got to take shots. I mean, it's literally like, how many comedians have you worked with are like, I have this chance to do a sitcom. Not exactly, doesn't seem like me, but maybe I'll grow into it. It's a constant. in show business.
You got to try it.
Yeah.
And it's a psychological, like, I gambled a lot of money. Like, I don't want to tell you how much money, but it's not money. It doesn't affect my week to week lifestyle. It's kind of like in 2008, if you had stock and it crashed, like, as long as you weren't living on it, if you didn't look at it,
yes, right.
It's a psychological issue. And if you 5 years later, you go back and look at it, you're fine. That's the way I feel about it.
I'm that way with the market all the time. I'm never up, I'm never down, because I'm just in it for a while.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, whenever I do cash out, then I'll scream or applaud.
Yeah.
But until then, there's nothing I could do.
Nothing you can
do at all. But this, of course, this is your business, which the Comedy Cellar is at that point where it's known internationally.
Yeah,
internationally.
It's known, and that's why my analysis of where I if it fails is I put it as I put it, which is I need to project my name into Vegas, and I'm having trouble with that. I know that enough people in Vegas are aware of the Comedy Cellar that if they know it's there, we'll sell enough tickets to break even, or even a little bit short of breaking even, but it'll be fine.
Mm-hmm.
But a catastrophic week-to-week loss can come because the expenses of promotion are very, very high, and they don't get you far.
Right.
So that's why I'm pessimistic all of a sudden.
But
so come to the Comedy Cellar in Vegas.
Come to the Cellar. Well, again,
see a great show and help out a cause.
Yeah, these are great comedians. These are all people that have passed at the Cellar, which means
they're sending the best comedians.
Yeah,
the best.
Yeah. And I was talking to Gad not too long ago when he was a giant star in France and thought, I want to go to New York. I want to play the Cellar and make it in that world. You know what I mean?
He's doing Vegas. Is that coincidence? Yeah. He's doing Vegas.
That same time?
He's doing it in like 3 weeks from now.
Yeah.
And the comedians have been wonderful. I mean, comedians who I could never really afford to pay, what they could get.
Right.
I've been happy to do it, this is headlining things and the showcase shows, you have Mo and Greer and all the.
Yeah.
It's going to be 1,000 times better than any other show in Vegas. I mean, no comparison.
Right.
But they say if you build it, they'll come. I don't know.
Yeah. So you're not worried about content. You're not worried about anything other than what does it take to put that spark.
Yeah. I'm worried. Yeah. I'm worried about being able to hold it together for the time that it takes for it to catch on.
Right.
And that can be really big numbers. I had no idea until the last 3 weeks how insurmountable this might be. Like the projections that I had been given by experts as to what I would need to spend. Totally off base. Totally.
Wow. So you need something. You need it to become a trend. You need it to kind of catch fire organically in some way, because you can't sit there and throw the same kind of money that Elton John does when he comes into Vegas.
That's right. And also, I'm like, I'm always tempted to ask for, I know, between the people that I can text message, they probably have, 30 million Twitter followers, right?
Right.
But and other ways that we could maybe ask for help from the comedy community, but I can't bring myself to do it.
Can't do it.
No, I don't want to. I'd rather just when I opened the Underground.
Mm-hmm.
You did your shows there. Yeah?
Love it.
I didn't mention it to anybody. Like all the managers, should we ask Chris? Yeah. Should we ask Chris if he wants to go around? I said, don't mention it. I don't want to ask for any favors. And I said, if it's a good room, sure enough, they began to come on their own. And now the Underground's a great success. And I never had to ask, for favors. So that's just the way I am.
But again, the Underground is a performers club. There's no doubt about it. And it's got that great history. And then you open up the Fat Black Pussycat, and it has this, almost overnight had this thing of, Colin's there, and you could see him working out his special. And then you did that new joke night, which was
that wasn't my idea. That was Will Sylvince's idea.
Right.
Yeah.
But here's the thing: for somebody to say to Will, "Yeah, all right, that's a weird idea. Do it." That kind of thing is what you've been able to do well. You've been a performer's place, and performers didn't even know they needed that thing, and now they feel comfortable doing something that was the most uncomfortable thing, breaking in new material on stage. So you've had this great run with this. Why not Vegas? Why not? Maybe.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
We'll see. Are you going to hope you
Yes,
come when you're in Vegas?
I'll come.
You really caught me I just got back yesterday morning.
Yeah.
And I came back at my most pessimistic ebb. Is that the right phrase?
Yeah.
And and I'm not a bullshitter, so you're asking me, and I'm just telling you how I'm feeling. I know I'm supposed to come to Vegas.
Hey, everybody, it's going to be great.
It's going to be a smash.
Yeah.
But I'm really nervous about it, and not because I'm a panicker. Like I'm pretty real. I'm not a pessimistic or optimistic guy. At least I try not to be. I try to say just face it as it really is, and I think I'm in trouble, Ron.
Yeah, this really has that feeling of like before a Broadway play, the way the writer, you know what I mean? Everybody, like what you're going through, what you're being honest about is what everybody feels. So I was talking Joe List, and he just did the Tonight Show, and I saw him the night before, and he says, I just hope that when they announce my name, I don't shit my pants.
Oh, yeah.
And I was just laughing. And he ended up getting 14 applause, a standing ovation. But he thought of none of that. He just thought of some weird thing that he would shit his pants before he walked out on stage.
Absolutely. But I want to tell you something.
Yeah.
I'm less neurotic than Joe List.
Yeah.
I'm more clear-eyed.
Yeah.
And I think that Joe had no reason to be nervous.
Right.
We all knew he was going to do fine.
Yeah.
He's the only person who thought he might not do fine. But that's not the case. There's real risks here. Did you see the movie Bugsy with Warren Beatty?
Absolutely.
So that night he opens the flamingo.
Yeah,
The circuit breaker goes out and it's empty and the leaks. And now, sorry, we're going to take a temporary close and renovations.
Yeah.
That might be opening night at the Comedy Cellar.
But here's the amazing thing about it. Long term, it did work. Everything did work. No matter what.
After he got shot.
Yeah, well, he got shot in the eye. You're right. He doesn't live this. I have kids. I didn't even consider that. Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah.
What are you going to do?
But this is the biggest risk of your career, do you think?
It's actually the only big risk. No.
Yeah.
Well, have I ever taken any big risks before? It depends how you want to judge the risk. In terms of the dollar amount, it's I would say I haven't even taken any other risks compared to this amount. On the other hand, compared to where I was when I took other risks to where I am now,
right?
It's not. I could shrug this one off more easily than I could have in 1980 or 1990? No, 1999 when I was supposed to go to the closing for the Fat Black Pussycat with $20,000, and I couldn't raise a second $10,000, and I showed up at the closing without the money.
Right.
And I said, "Listen, I haven't got it. I'll pay it off over a year." And they said yes. So that was my last dollar at the time.
Right.
And this is not my last dollar.
This isn't your last dollar.
Yeah.
And you have all the experience of this, and you got some great comedians already coming in. I mean, you couldn't be doing any better than you were with the kind of comedians you're bringing.
I'm billing them as the trees falling in a forest.
Right.
Noam Dorman's in studio. The Comedy Cellar at the Rio in Las Vegas opens Thursday, April 5th. For more information, go to comedycellar.com.
All right. Is that it?
No. You're here. You want to hang out for a while. I want to get you past this pessimistic thing. And if it turns in another direction, who knows? We might, seriously, I might just have to wrap a ribbon around this one day and send it to you and go, look, before you started producing TV shows and movies, look how bad you felt here. But this is that connecting, I think, that you do to say, okay, I'm going to do even more things. You know?
I think you're right. I mean, I don't know. We're going to see. And there is some television in the offing, but you say that because you know about it?
No. No.
So there is some television in the offing, which, and I don't have to pay for it.
Right.
And it looks like it's going to happen. And I'm very excited about that. I'm not really allowed to talk about it.
Sure.
Like in 3 days from now, I might be able to talk about it.
Right.
And this Vegas thing, but I have to say, I knew from day one, and I said it even on my radio show, even before I became as pessimistic as I am now, that I was doing it for kind of sketchy reasons, which was that I didn't see an opportunity and grab it. I went around looking for an opportunity. It's a different thing. Like to hammer everything looks like a nail. I kind of became like a hammer, and I'm looking for nails, and that's always risky. And I felt like I had this juggernaut of a name, and so why shouldn't I? I should try to expand it. I'm not going to go to L.A. because that market is very well taken care of, and I don't know how to actually run a club across the country. If the air conditioner breaks, there's a whole thing.
Right.
I said, in Vegas, they run everything. All I have to do is run the show. And I said, well, that seems like a good idea. And it's Vegas. I mean, there's millions of people there, right? But there's a slight vanity is probably not the right word. That's probably insulting to me more than I deserve. But there was a slight non-business man's analysis that led me into this Vegas thing. And I was always aware of it. It was always in the back of my mind. And I always was say, if I fail, it's going to be because this didn't come from the right provenance.
Yeah. But like we brought up with your love of music, you're an artist first before you're a businessman. There's some people that are just business. They don't care whether they're in pots and pans, comedy. It doesn't matter to them. But you're always about the art first, right? That's the one thing that the Cellar has proven, that they've brought in the people doing this art form.
Well, it's about the art. It's going to sound corny. It's about having fun.
Yes.
I wake up like I know business people in similar businesses to me, or even when I had the Cafe One, the exact same business to me, who spend their time analyzing their margins, what their costs are.
Yeah.
And I'm a smart person. I was good at math and everything. You could not tie me to a chair to get me to do this stuff. And I also learned that there's not much you can do about it. You can't really charge more than your competitors anyway. So, but so I always gravitated towards, well, what's the fun part of this? And luckily, the fun part of it is actually the part that has the most leverage to increase business. The fun part really is putting on a great show,
right?
Making the place beautiful, showing people a good time, being a good host. These are things that people do for free, and it is what brings customers back. Customers don't care about your margins and all that stuff. And I think so many businesses fail because they focus on the wrong things and they miss out on the fun that they could be having.
Right. And always the fun of any project is the early stages.
Absolutely.
It's always the most fun. It's where everybody is the most optimistic. Year 7 of any show, you could always see people drifting or whatever.
It's like a marriage.
Band. Holding a band together is harder than any marriage, though, don't you think?
Yeah.
There's never been a band who are like, no, we really still getting along and it's all just as fun and we write just as much.
By the end, they hate each other.
They hate
each other.
Yeah. Which now we're smart enough to tell people, you guys are going to hate each other. Yeah. So here are the things to do. If somebody was around telling the Beatles, hey, you don't even need to break up. You could just walk away for a couple years.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Bands have figured that out. But it is amazing that part of it. And you've been able to do that where you had the Cellar. As soon as that is really established, you moved into the underground and on and on. So this is, I think, is a big part of why you wanted to do.
Yeah, well, I need something to do. You're right. And the building of it and all of it has been fun. And I guess I'm all out of it. It's going to be such a nice room.
Right.
We really put such tender loving care into making this room exactly what it should be, not a schlock clip joint.
Right.
And it's sad to think that I won't be able to get it off the ground because it's just not feasible. But it may turn out okay.
Sure.
I'm ready to lose some money and keep the doors open.
Right.
But if it's like opening night crash,
yeah,
I'm looking to get out.
Somebody will be able to come in and call it ha-has.
Yeah, just like
within a couple of weeks.
It's because it's just like Vegas. Like you lose $100 at the table, you don't know when to walk away.
Right.
My luck's going to change, and then you're $1,000 down. And
yeah.
I saw, and every business that starts losing has that issue. Can I turn this around? When do you? And they always walk away too late.
Right.
They always do.
Everybody walks away too late.
Yeah.
Everybody waits until it really hurts them.
Yeah,
before
that's
they
right.
go.
Until their last dollar. I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not going to do that.
So you have a mysterious thing in your head. You're like, here's the spot. I'll know, even if no one else knows. By the time that I know that I'm not comfortable with this.
I'll tell you something. I do have that. I do have a good gut instinct about those things. I really do. I'm not saying that out of ego. I mean, it's over the years. I have proven to be right about my instincts about whether something could turn around or not. And when I thought something could turn around, I threw everything into it.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to know when it's out of your control. Getting the name blasted into the Strip in Las Vegas. I just don't have the ability to do that. It's not going to change 3 weeks from now.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a lot of money every week.
Right.
I'll tell you, I know this kind of came to mind when I opened the Fat Black Pussycat, the bar with it.
Yeah.
I had the same issue. How do I get people in here, And at the time, City Search was remember?
Yeah,
was
sure.
it? So they had City Search had these best of lists.
Mm-hmm.
I said, well, I got to figure out how to get on the best of list of City Search. I just opened, but you could vote once a day on City Search, and they used to, and I figured out that they took your IP address. So what do I do? And then it dawned on me, if you use a dial-up connection, each time you dial up and hang up, you get a new IP address. It's not a static IP. So then I got 4 computers, and I got this program called Macro Express, where you could program the computer to do it. And I programmed each computer using a random number generator for time to call up, dial in, and vote for the Fat Black Pussycat in 2 different categories: best lounge and best happy hour.
Mm-hmm.
And we had barely opened. And sure enough, we won best lounge and best happy hour. And that jump-started business.
Everything.
It really jumped. And from then we were able to take it. But I can't think of that angle in Vegas. Like I'm racking my brains, I mean, that was genius, right?
Yeah, that was genius. But now you're in the city of hustlers. Vegas is the hustlers, is the hustlers' place. But as long as you've got that thing built where the feeling of a good comedy club, and you're bringing in these acts where these are the correct acts to get, you're going to at least get word of mouth right away, but is that going to be enough for you? You need another jolt besides that.
I mean, I hope they're not listening. I mean, one option will be that maybe the Caesars organization will, float me in some way to get. I mean, they don't want us to lose. They make money. They're not. They have no benefit by us going out of business, and they're going to know that I'm not. I mean, they're going to see what my expenses are. But I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if I should have said that or not. They're probably not listening.
Whatever. I love the fact that you're out there the way that you are. I love the fact that you're just, like, no one normally says, I'm going to open up and here's the concerns as well as, the upside. I think it's fantastic.
Yeah, people are they hold their cards. I don't know why, because people know you're bullshitting.
Right.
And it's like, well, who wants to talk to a bullshitter,
Right.
How's business? I had this thing with the bar next door to me for a while, not the one that's there now. The previous. I said, when I kind of wanted to buy that bar to expand, and I said, and I would ask him, how's business? Oh, we're knocking the cover off the ball.
Right.
I'd never heard that expression. I know, knocking the cover off the ball. I said, all right. I said, well, I guess then I wouldn't be able to pay you anything. And I thought there was no. And like 3 months later, they went broke.
Right.
I'm like, why were you telling me it's like you just, he just couldn't bear to share. No, we're struggling a little bit. There's no shame in it.
No, it is life. It is 95% of the restaurant business. You're in trouble at one time or another. But nobody ever says, we're not doing good.
But I got that from my father. My father was always very frank.
Yeah.
When business was not so good, he'd tell no. And when it was good, he would say, oh, it's great.
Yeah.
Ka-ching, ka-ching.
Well, I forgot. I think I was talking to Judah Friedlander, and he, because we were talking about the comedy boom, and he said, like, in the 90s at some point, your dad called all the comics in and said, what are we going to do, guys, if this thing doesn't work? And I thought that was so fascinating because I've never heard of anybody else do this, to say, You guys are in business with me too. You know what I mean? You guys need this to work. How do we get the word out?
Yeah, that was my father. My father, was very special in a lot of ways. And I remember we were at that time. I had the Wah, and the Wah was much more. The Wah was kind of like the Comedy Cellar is today. The Wah had a line around the block, but the Wah I had a lease there, and in the Olive Tree and in the Comedy Cellar we owned the building. We were paying a mortgage, and the Wah didn't draw off enough money to take care of all that. And I remember my father saying to me, "Listen, I think we're one snowstorm away from the end."
Wow.
Because it was one of those winters where a snowstorm on the winter is a killer. And that's how close it was, like one snowstorm away from and watching the weather reports, like, oh shit, how are we going to survive another snowstorm?
Yeah.
So he wasn't bullshitting when he brought the comics in.
Yeah, I think that I always thought that was an amazing thing. And also because we always think everyone else is killing in life. Somebody's doing, you always think everybody, oh, look at them. They got this, they got that. But I thought the idea of calling the comics in saying, we got to pull some people in here. And I think you're kind of doing that now. You're opening this up to the universe of what do we got to do to make sure people know that the Cellar is in Vegas.
Yeah, you're right. I've never been more nervous.
Well, I'm betting on you, buddy. I really am, because like I said, you've got you understand what makes a great room, and you also have the best comics.
I will tell you this, though.
Yeah.
I should have said this before. Yeah. One of the reasons I will pull the plug is because the natural fallback position would be to start operating in the way that the other Vegas clubs operated, which is to get a mediocre headliner and then some comics that'll work for $30 or whatever it is, and drastically lower expenses, not have to fly people in, all the things that I want to do. And I could probably float for a long time that way, but I will not, unless it's going to be the Cellar, as the Cellar is, I'm going to take that loss. I'm not going to compromise it to run some kind of a second-rate Cellar.
And the idea is the shows will run the same way as the Cellar.
Exactly the same. Yeah. It's got to be the same comedians, the same everything.
Right.
But now I also, on the other hand, am learning why the other clubs in Vegas are kind of mediocre.
Yeah.
It's not because they want to be, I don't think.
Yeah, it's the same reason why all the chains have mediocre hamburgers. You know what I mean? Like you have to do that to keep this thing running. But
that's right.
And again, I'm not going to ask you about the TV, but to go back to Judah, I think that he proved that you could shoot at your club on these little phones, and he had one of the best specials of all time.
It was great, right?
And it was unbelievable. And I felt like that felt more like comedy to me than any other big production that I ever saw. That tightness that he had.
Well, we did a pilot at the Cellar not too long ago, and this was one of the real beefs that I had with the people doing the pilot and the way it came out is in the way they shot it. And I showed them Judah's thing, and I say, and Judah's was low budget. He had just like a commercial, not even a consumer camcorder or something like that, and no lighting. I said, ours is going to look better than this no matter what, but his feels like we want ours to feel.
Exactly.
We're not going to pretend we're in a big room.
Yeah.
If we have a small room, then let's steer into the skid was the thing. So don't and it was a lot of trouble to get them to think that way. The one time but then when Louis shot at the Cellar, that's what he did, and it looks great. When Judd Apatow shot some scenes of crashing at the Cellar, you really felt like you're at the club. And why they think that an audience wouldn't like that,
I know.
I don't get it.
You don't want to feel like you're in the back of a theater. You don't want to feel like you're swinging around over top. You want to feel like you're in this tight, somewhat dangerous environment,
Absolutely.
like that same feeling that we heard when we heard comedy albums the first time.
Also, I think they estimate or undervalue how important it is to keep the camera in tight.
Right.
I think that the close up, when you're having a conversation with somebody, even as far away as you are, but even a little bit further, it's not the same conversation anymore. And if you're trying to be funny or if I want to see a gleam in your eye or just a slight, the kind of things that humans pick up on that we don't even realize we're picking up on, that only comes from close up. Movies get that. Movies know to get in close when you want to really cap. But for some reason, they're always cutting out to these wide shots as if they don't really understand what matters.
And that they've been doing that for what, 40 years now.
Yeah.
40 years that they, and go back to Joe. You can say he had no budget. You know what I mean? There wasn't some weird thing about him coming to the stage. He's just on the stage. And what I thought was brilliant is he did it in front of the Cellar audience who they weren't necessarily fans of his. They were just at the comedy club, and he's winning the new people over on a constant thing. Brilliant. Brilliant.
He's a brilliant guy.
Yeah, he is.
He's a very interesting guy, unconventional. Well, you know him.
Yeah.
You don't really know what makes him tick.
Absolutely.
But every time I've seen him tested, scratch the surface of him, all I find is a real mensch, a real honorable guy, really smart, caring, funny guy.
Well, you have those kind of people too. Greer has always caught me the same way. I don't know where Greer goes when he's off the stage. I don't know where David Tell goes. You know what I mean? Like, those things are so fascinating to me.
Tell goes back to his penthouse in Central Park West.
Yeah, we just never know.
I don't know where he goes.
All right, congratulations.
Thank you.
Enjoy why this is happening. I hope we all feel giant relief for you and you feel good about it. But no matter what happens, everything is going to work
if it
out,
goes
right?
bad, I want to come back on and really tell you what was going on.
I would love that. I would love that. All right.
Unload.
Chris, plugs.
Noam Dworman's been in studio. The Comedy Cellar at the Rio in Las Vegas opens Thursday, April 5th. For more information, go to comedycellar.com. And the Comedy Cellar show airs Thursdays at 7 p.m. East on Raw Dog Channel 99.
Thank you very much.
That is Noam writing and playing all those instruments. Chris, you just said it was very Django Reinhardt.
Yeah, very Django Reinhardt.
It's very funny.
I love it.
Well, like for years he owned the Cafe Wa and all that, and has been in bands and plays music with a lot of the shows that he does there. Hopefully, this opening will not go as bad as he feels it will.
Yeah, I feel confident. I feel more confident than Noam.
I'm putting good vibes out for him.
Well, I don't know. I have to take it from the horse's mouth. The horse was just going, I don't know, dude.
He knows a lot more than me about the situation. But I feel confident.
It's a hard thing to do. When you start the thing talking about Bugsy Siegel and how bad it turned out for him. Good for him for being that honest. I never am. I'm always surprised when people are honest. I'm the least
shocking.
honest person I ever met. And the person I lied to the most?
Yeah.
Myself.
Oh no.
I'm doing a tour I hope is going to turn everything around. I call it the Ron's going to be in Connecticut on Saturday tour.
That's tomorrow, March 31st. 2 shows, 7 and 9 p.m.
Tomorrow? I need more time.
No, it's tomorrow, Ron, at Fairfield Comedy Club in Fairfield, Connecticut. FairfieldComedyClub.com for tickets.
All right, I'm going to take a little bit from Noam and try to be honest.
Okay.
All right.
And I can say to people about this show, I'm sure I'll be at the 7 o'clock show. You have my word on that.
All right.
And from there, we'll see how the 7 goes.
Yeah.
If I don't have fun at the 7, you expect me to be at the 9?
7 p.m. guaranteed.
Yes.
FairfieldComedyClub.com.
And that's Passover. It's the night before Easter, but it's Passover.
The night you pass over.
I've had 8 Passovers with a Jewish family. I still don't know what happens on Passover.
I'll tell you this, they don't go to comedy clubs, Chris. That's against the rules.
Yeah,
Maybe they
because
should.
isn't in the Bible, isn't it like that they had to stay inside? Then you put the lamb or the goat's blood on the door, and then your house gets passed over, and then no one gets killed. I'm pretty sure it's something like that.
Well, that was the original one. I don't know. They still do. This was when God was killing all the firstborns.
I think it was something.
You had to put the lamb's blood up. I know from that movie, and then the fog would move to the next door.
I hope I'm not just combining about 3 or 4 biblical stories and thinking it's Passover.
I definitely think you're right there. Either that or it's the movie The Thing, where the fog was also very scary.
That was scary as fuck.
But Captain Ron is there. Don't worry. Well, I guess we have to get ready to throw it to this unmasked. And we should say a few things about Roy Wood Jr. I'll say this. This is Chris Stanley's favorite, I think.
Yes.
I love Roy Wood
He
Jr.
passed Tom Segura for you.
Yes.
Tom was your favorite.
He was my favorite, but now
He
Roy Wood
was like
Jr.
in the
is,
darling spot for you. You
Yeah.
really love Roy Wood Jr.
Yeah, I love him that much, and I love.
Is it
his
because Roy Wood Jr. writes back to you and Tom Segura doesn't?
Yes, 100%.
Okay.
Well, it certainly helps.
All right, you're screaming that after, but there's no other information that we have.
Also, he's now the host of This Is Not Happening, which airs tonight on Comedy Central at midnight.
That was Ari Shafir's,
Yes.
and it's been taken over for Passover.
He-
Ari's been passed over.
He has been passed over.
Well, Roy Wood Jr., hysterical guy. In this Unmasked, he really gets into the nuts and bolts of how to push yourself ahead.
Yes. He goes deep and what it takes to self-motivate.
I will tell you that. I will tell you this. I do not have the drive.
I
that he
know.
has, and I refuse to have the drive.
When he was describing it, and I don't want to spoil anything,
Spoil
but he goes into specifics about even what it takes to market yourself to stand out.
I never got the color H by tens.
I know.
That's me.
Like how to make your headshot stand out, how to make your business card stand out. This is something that most people are not that detail oriented to go, this matters.
No. Most people don't really try hard, and most people, when they're told no, just go, okay, it's no. You know what I mean?
Tommy Boy style.
Yeah. Gotcha.
Okay.
I like to do projects that people come to me. I like to have jobs where people come to me and they go, Ron, we've noticed you. You look good.
Yeah.
Or if somebody comes by to me and says, you have any ideas? I'll say, I got some ideas. But I'm not going to go put a whole thing together
Yeah, and say
when
like,
there's no one there.
here's my ideas.
Mr. Show Business, can I talk to you for a minute?
The real dream is someone coming up to you and saying, you're perfect.
Yes.
You should be a star. You need money. And I like you just the way you are. Don't change a damn thing.
That's happened to me in every radio job. People just call me up and said, "Do you want to come here?" And I go, "Are you inviting me?" And the answer is yes. And when people go, "Why didn't you ever live in L.A.?" I go, "I never never got a call from anybody in L.A."
Right.
One time, and some guy called me and said, "I wish I wanted you, but I got another show that's really working right now."
I would say, why'd you call and tell me this?
No, I thought it was nice. He called up. This is what he said. He goes, "Look, I don't even like this show, but it's working." I go, "Well, thanks for the call." I don't think I've ever talked to him again. But who knows? What if they weren't working? Who knows? I might have been there forever.
Yeah. You
It's
could have been
always
a West
funny.
Coaster. Life is
West
weird.
Coaster, probably. I'd probably be in the Bloods right now.
What?
Essay. Is that what your girlfriend says? Essay.
She doesn't call me essay.
What does she mean when she says essay? What does that even mean?
Essay's like friend,
It's
or
like,
like compatriot.
like homie.
This is my best essay. Thank you for being an essay.
Loves essays.
You took me back to Costa Rica. Well, I just saw Costa Rica in a movie again last night.
Really?
Oh, I know. Falcon and the Snowman, the great. Wait, first of all, you got a blank look in your face?
I've never seen Falcon and the Snowman.
All right, look, here's the story. You know it?
No, I don't.
It is two of the big stars of Taps. Remember the movie Taps?
Yes.
That's
So you got what's his name? Tim? I can't think of his last name. And then Sean Penn,
yeah.
right?
Hutton?
Tim, huh?
No, not Timothy Hutton.
Hutton.
That
Timothy
is,
Hutton.
yeah.
Thank you very much. So Timothy Hutton works in something like the NSA somewhere, right? But a low-level job. And his only kind of buddy from high school, Sean Penn, is a low-level coke dealer, right?
Okay.
And then they get the idea, and this is a true story, okay? This is a true story that they get the idea of, like, what if I steal some of the secrets, I give them to you, and you sell them to the Russians? So suddenly these dudes, this really happened back in the 70s. These guys were suddenly double knot spies. And for as far as I can tell, zero political reasons. You know what I mean?
Just like financial gains.
Yeah, just like, hey, this is a great way to make some money. You know, and it's a really good film. But the dope dealer was like saying to his parents, "I just bought some property in Costa Rica, man. We could go down there and do anything." I always laugh at that. Like, we could do anything. That was such a Florida fucking thing to say. Like, people in Florida you'd be at like the end of a night and everybody's partying. And there would be like an odd couple to be like, let's go back to our house. We can do anything we want there. And I was always like, what do you mean anything we want? I can do anything wherever I want to do it.
I didn't feel the shackles of this place.
What is this thing? By anything we want, do you mean your wife? Is that where this is going?
Anything.
But I was talking to Bobby Kelly about this just the other day in his shed. And weird. It's a show, Chris.
Chris, and you know this.
Only 2 people have done it so far. Myself and Colin Quinn. Colin got his heart attack 2 days later, and me, my nuts have been bothering me.
Oh,
What's up with that
no. Not a nut attack.
What's up with that shit?
What up with that shit, dude?
Doctor, it's my nuts.
You haven't been in these sheds.
But he basically was bringing up to me like couples will try to pick you up in Florida. And one of the weirdest nights of my life, this is many years ago, these people invited me after the show, and I'm a kid. I don't even think I'd met Gail's mom at the time. And they invited me back to this fucking place, and a very famous anniversary playmate was there. It was a house that was right on the water. All these fucking Peter Max and Andy Warhol things were up.
Wow.
All these old like Grateful Dead posters from the 60s and stuff. And a feeling of paranoia that would be in an Agatha Christie fuck. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, we just went from being normal people to everybody like, what is he up to in there? And I'm like, how is this shit
This is not normal.
fucking going down like this? And I'm like, how do I get out of here without being the one that the others kill? So that's what I'm trying to say to you. Noam, good luck
Good luck to you, Noam.
in Vegas. I think it's going to be a big hit, or hopefully just a quick failure for you, so you can get back to where you want to be. As you said, take a hit. We will throw the. Do we throw it, or is it commercial first?
Is it a commercial? Then we're going to go to it. That's Roy Wood Unmasked.
I also want to point this out. Monday, we've got another Unmasked that came in last minute.
Yeah, that's Tracy Morgan Unmasked. That's this Monday, April 2nd, 11:40 a.m. Go to the ibang.com for a chance of free tickets for Unmasked with Tracy Morgan.
So, as you know, that's literally when we do our show on Monday. So, we're going to play the Roseanne Unmasked, since she's America's Rose right now. she is America's Roseanne. She's bringing us all together under Trump, and we're gonna fucking MAGA, guys. We're gonna MAGA.
Finally.
I really want to. I want to believe. You know, I do. I just want to believe. And so we'll start with that, but we'll be back live, and I think with some cool comedian guests too. So Monday, we will see you then. And coming up next, A Mess with Roy Wood Jr. Bennington. Roy Wood Jr.
Well, how are you?
How are you, my friend?
I'm okay. How are you?
Good. Not as busy as you. You seem to be the busiest man in comedy.
I don't know about the busiest. Kevin Hart is the busiest. Kevin Hart is by far the busiest, and then I think Seinfeld gets a lot of stuff done too.
But you're running around doing stuff all the time. You don't have free time.
It's been a blessing. It's been a blessing to have an opportunity to work on a daily show, do what we're doing on This Is Not Happening, try and get a pilot greenlit, and then sometimes I'm a daddy.
Yeah, every once in a while.
Yeah, every now and then. You know, they say kids, you're supposed to see them every day. I've read books. I think that's what the books say.
Yeah.
That you should speak to your child every day, especially if he lives in the same house as you.
How close do you come? Because you're out on the road on weekends too, besides these TV shows.
But you know what? I've had to limit that. So now I'm on the road probably 2 weekends a month, and I try to stay out no more than 2 to 3 days at a time, just to make sure that,
right.
You know, I don't want my partner. I don't want her going crazy.
Yeah.
Because my kid, he's 2. He's a lunatic, and he can climb on stuff.
Yeah.
I found him inside the dishwasher. Door open. But he had figured out how to pull the bottom tray out and lift that out and was like literally just exploring the dishwasher.
Yeah.
And so I don't want to leave my girl to that by herself all the time. But, you know, I'm at a point in my career where I have a lot of opportunities, and I'm not going to let any of them go. Y'all got to take this from me, man. Because there's a sense of paranoia that I operate from where I always feel like it could all be over. And I don't think that's paranoia as much as it is fact. Mm-hmm. So sooner or later, the door will close for me, regardless of whatever opportunities I may have now.
There's opportunity ringing right now in your pocket.
Yeah, probably so. I thought I'd turn that off. Did I turn that off? Yeah, I did. I think that there's a lot of different ways to go about building your career, but once things start rolling, I feel like it's important to have as many pots on the stove at all times.
Yeah. But have you looked at someone and said, oh, they had all the opportunities and they stayed in the swimming pool too long? I mean, is there somebody, because it's very difficult once you get to that point, you get a nice, comfortable home to then leave it.
I just feel like there's an evolution to your career where you peak, you plateau, and then there's either a rebirth, which gives you another level up, or you either stay at that plateau, or in the case of some comedians, there's a regression. And, I don't feel like there's anybody by name per se, but when I look back on my first 10 years, you gotta remember, my first 10 years of comedy, I was down south. I wasn't on the coast. I wasn't in New York or LA. So I opened for a lot of road guys. And when you open for a lot of different road comedians, you're meeting comedians that are all at different trajectories in their career. Some going up, some going down. I've opened for guys that were battling alcoholism and drugs and divorce. And then I've also open for people that are now doing amazing things themselves. And so I can look back on that first 10 years and go, oh, I see where he made the mistake of not doing that audition or not going to that showcase, or he decided to choose the bottle over writing material that night. And, I know guys that, we were neck and neck when we started, and some of those guys, here we are, I'm 20 years into my career, and a lot of those guys are in the same position. And a lot of it comes down to work ethic. I really feel like 85% of this business is work ethic, man. It's not even talent. It's not agents and managers. It's just being willing to outgrind anybody else that's doing it. And then and having the emotional endurance to constantly hear no, to constantly fail, to trust that one day your hustle and your talents will get you to where you want to go.
Yeah.
And
there is no way to know where the next opportunity is, or, because, you don't know. Yeah, it's so frustrating because there's no, you're not like moving up in the military, so your rank.
Yeah, it's not a job where there is a linear progression. It's just you trust that each thing you're doing will get you to the next thing. You're running in the dark, but you trust everything that you've done up until that point that's gotten you this far.
Yeah.
So why wouldn't continuing to hustle get me a little bit further? When I look at where I was before The Daily Show, so if we're going back summer of 2015, I was coming off of a sitcom that had just gotten canceled by TBS, and I'd done a couple of auditions in LA for a couple of roles, and I had booked a pilot or two, and none of it went. But during that time, that entire year, I was going on ESPN once or twice a month and doing segments on ESPN. Wasn't paid. It was no big deal. I like talking sports. I like cracking jokes. But it was those appearances that ended up catching the eye of one of the producers of The Daily Show, which got me the audition.
Yeah.
So that wasn't the plan. I didn't even know that the Daily Show was looking for other people. I auditioned for the Daily Show in 2008 and completely laid a turd. It's a terrible, terrible audition. So I was like, all right, I'll never be on that show. Like, this is how bad my audition was. I auditioned the same day as Wyatt Cenac, who went on to have an amazing Emmy Award-winning run with the show, and he's now doing his own thing on HBO. And I go in, I do my audition, and I feel like I think that was okay. All right, I guess. I leave the room. Wyatt goes in. I realize I left my car keys and phone in the room. So I have to sit in the chair and wait for Wyatt's audition to conclude before I can go in. The laughs coming from that room.
Yeah.
While I'm sitting on the other side of the door. Like, it's just...
Yeah.
And Wyatt would say something else, and then you hear the person... And I knew I didn't get the job.
Yeah.
Like, I knew they didn't laugh like that for me.
Right. But also, he was probably at a place where he kind of knew who he was. Wyatt was good and deserved the job. Yeah.
They're still laughing as Wyatt walks out. I walk back in. The laughter stops on a dime. Hey, I just left my phone and get my ego. I think my ego was over there on the ground to pick that up. And I see y'all later. Y'all take it easy. So based on that audition, I'd have never thought that I got an opportunity with the Daily Show, but you just don't know what the next thing is going to be or what leads to what. And that's what I've always trusted. You know, when I started on the road, the kind of the pact I made with myself as a comedian when I started, and this is 98, I'm 19. The goal every month was to perform comedy in a different city. Not a insurmountable goal, but the more you hit the cities in that 3 to 4 hour radius of Tallahassee and Birmingham, where I'm back and forth to, it gets harder every month. So every month you're having to book a city a little further out. Or if I'm performing in Little Rock, then you know what? I'm going to add a Tuesday night in Oklahoma City. But now that means on Monday you have nothing. The last night in Oklahoma City, the last night in Little Rock is Sunday. And you got a gig in Oklahoma City on Tuesday. So you got nothing to do on the Monday. So you got to figure out where you're going to kill that time. You go to Oklahoma City early. Do you backtrack to Memphis and see if you can get on set? But going back to Birmingham is out of the question because you got to be in Oklahoma on Tuesday to do 5 minutes unpaid. But you'd meet another comic who knew a guy who booked a thing. And if your 5 minutes went okay, then it was an opportunity to get a little deeper into those comedy markets. And that's the only way you can survive down south is performing in multiple areas. And then I would get slick where I would perform, like, take a city like Oklahoma City. Like, the way comedy works in the Midwest and in the South is that your stature in one city dictates whether or not the next city over respects you. So in order to get booked in Nashville, you need to be doing well in Chattanooga or Birmingham. So the bigger cities pull from the smaller cities in a sense. So I figured that out real fast because Nashville wasn't going to book you if you don't work Birmingham, why would you work Nashville? Birmingham's a great. So each club is judging your resume. So I would go to Oklahoma City and do a free show I would do a 5 to 7 minute set. I would record it on VHS back in these days. I was renting cameras, man. I was renting these big ass cameras from Rent-A-Center, and or I would go to Circuit City. I would buy VHS cameras from Circuit City and use them for 2 weeks. They had a 13-day return policy. So on the 12th day, I would go back to Circuit City and say, the battery quality is just not what I had hoped on this camera. And back in those days, you had to pay a restocking fee. So it was like $40. So basically for $40, I got to rent a camera for a week and a half. And so I would go to Oklahoma. I'm just using Oklahoma City as an example. I go to OKC. I would video my 7 minute set, take that set, cut out the intro and the outro of my performance. So it looks like a segment of what was a longer performance. So I would cut out the, hey, how you doing? And I would cut out the thank you, good night. And all you would see is just the meat. I would send that 7 minute snippet to Tulsa, to Dallas, to Kansas City, to Topeka, anywhere else within 4 hours of Oklahoma City, because I knew those cities respected comics that worked Oklahoma City. So I would send a 7-minute segment and go, here's a snippet of my set. And I never said it was a 30-minute set. I just said it was a snippet of my set. I technically did not lie. And I would book those cities because they figured, well, he works Oklahoma City. He's got to be funny enough to play Broken Arrow, Oklahoma. So those were the little games that you had to play.
Did anybody teach you that, or this is something you were just picking up that I got to get out there?
Picking up, man.
Yeah.
You just figure out how to cut corners and how to lie and how to, because everybody's trying to get over on everybody, and you just have to figure out a way to stand out. Like that's the hardest part of all of this. You're sending VHS tapes to strangers, and this is before sending links and clicking a YouTube or whatever. I had to convince you that I was worth the trouble to take a big ass VCR tape and put it in a console and sit and watch me. So I would print my resumes in color. I would do color headshots for some clubs. I designed these folders. Thank God for my journalism degree and some of the graphic design that I learned, because I was able to put a little more razzle dazzle into the paperwork and all of the packaging. The packaging, I would sit in a hotel all night after a show and just design little labels. My business cards were in color on gloss. I lived at Kinko's back in those days.
Yeah.
I don't recognize FedEx office. The shit is Kinko's. It will always be Kinko's. And that's where I lived, man, and just design stuff that, at least if it looked professional when it came out the envelope, maybe you'd respect me more. And if at minimum, my shit is going to stand out on your desk, because you got to stack. And I've seen it.
Yeah.
When you go to get paid at the end of the week, you see, I call it the stack of dreams. You see the stack of dreams sitting in the corner, and it's all white. It's all manila. It's all the same. It just looks like just visual, just boringness. And so you want to be that one thing that's visually disruptive. You got to go color, which costs a little more. So you might have to work a daily pay job on that Monday between Little Rock and Oklahoma City, just to make sure you have an extra $40, which is fine. But like, those were the things that, I don't know. I just started figuring out that I just felt like being funny was never going to be enough to excel faster. I do feel like I stayed in the South too long, and I think it stymied some of my creative growth, because you pick up bad habits when you perform with comedians that aren't as driven, and not necessarily just performatively, but in terms of your job and your desires. Because in New York, part of why New York is always the best place to do comedy, it has nothing to do with the rooms. It's everybody here feels like failure is coming tomorrow. So you can't even walk slow in this city.
Yeah, it's true. And
everything has to be done under pressure, and it makes you drive and push harder because you're around people that are also pushing, and you see more people. So it's more of an influence, where I only saw 2 comedians a week.
Yeah. And you're going on, I mean, I wonder how it is to work out new material in New York, because you're going up right after somebody who killed, and you're right on before somebody who kills, and you're like, how, do I want to drop the room energy at all as they work this out?
It depends. It depends on the room. Some rooms you got to just, as I call it, keep your reputation intact.
Yeah.
And go and hit them with the hits.
Yeah.
And get off the stage. But if it's a night where the energy is proper and you can get away with some stuff, the good thing about New York is that there's rooms here that are set up explicitly for new jokes, and it's set up exactly for people to do new material. So the energy is set up in a way where you can delve into that type of stuff. But, there's been nights where you have to follow Louis, Chappelle, Rock, and then Kevin Hart, and then it's you. And you just want to do well enough to say, yeah, I belonged on the stage with all those other people you saw. And you may do 1 or 2 new jokes, but I just think in New York, it's a city where you pick your spots to break new jokes, but most venues are for polishing material that's already proven. And then you take it out on the road and see how much of it they hate in middle America.
But it is true that, like, with comedy now, it's like jazz was in the 50s in New York, where you're going to be going up with Bird or Train, and you couldn't, you're playing at a very high level.
Yeah.
All the time now.
You have to be. And I think that this market demands that. And that's what I mean when I talk about the pressure, because now between sets, when you those 10 minutes in that cab from gig to gig, you aren't texting. You're listening to audio from what you just said to figure out what you can improve when you get to the next performance. And that's not what was happening.
Yeah.
When I was in the South and in the Midwest like that. I remember going through a stretch of years. This headliner showed me, like, when I think about advice that headliners have given me, the Comedy Cellar here in New York is probably, well, in my opinion, it is the best place to watch comedy on the planet Earth. And it's one of the few clubs that foreign comics have a desire to perform in, because they know if you can do it here, then you got something. And there's a table in the back of the Comedy Cellar where a lot of comedians just kind of sit and fellowship between gigs, or if you got an 8:00 spot and you don't have another spot till 11, you go to the cellar and you chill out at this table. And sometimes there's headliners there and people that have done more than you. And it's a great spot to get advice and have conversations about the business and the pratfalls of it. And, well, I'm working on this script and I'm pitching it. When you pitched your show to the network, blah, 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 blah. And you're getting real valuable advice that's not in a book, that you can't get from a class, from someone that's tried and true. When I was on the road in the South, a headliner showed me one night how to get free drinks from the audience. It's a solid trick. Still works to this day if I want a free drink, but it's not the same advice.
Yeah.
Which, for the record, what you do. Halfway through your set, you have the waitress bring you a shot to the stage. And then you go, who did this? You go, someone in the crowd wanted you to have a shot. And I go, no, thank you. That's so nice. You do the shot. Then someone else in the crowd goes, well, I like him. I'm not gonna let that person one up me. So then people start sending you shots for real because of one shot that you basically used to kickstart the whole flow. And that's how I would drink for free for like 4 or 5 years. But now that advice is useless.
Yeah.
Is my point. It doesn't help me now.
Well, you know what else has changed since you started is these kind of specialty shows, and you're hosting one now, which is a storytelling show.
Correct.
But that didn't exist years ago. People would just go up and do their acts. And now when you're a comedian, you're expected to do several types of acts.
Yeah, there's a lot of different types of stand-up. What I love about This Is Not Happening, and what Ari Shafir, who created and was the original host for 3 seasons before me, did, was he created a space for an atypical style of comedic storytelling, which it almost borderlines on a monologue in a way, but it's just a funny story. It's a wild, crazy story that really happened, and it's told to us by people that we traditionally wouldn't have thought to have gone through those things or those experiences. Howie Mandel, who's a well-documented germaphobe, told a story about the time he fell off the side of a freeway and fell into a ravine or whatever. He was germaphobe, and he's trying to potty train his daughter, and they stop on the side of the freeway. Somehow, I don't want to spoil the story, but he ends up covered in muck. Yeah. And so it's his reaction to how he climbed back up the hill or whatever. So, it's good, because traditionally when you see comedy on TV, especially now, 10 years ago it was a little better, but stand-up comedy is not showcased as often as it was in the past. Like if we go back to Def Comedy Jam and BET's Comic View, and Premium Blend on Comedy Central, there was a time where stand-up comedy, you could watch that in prime time on television 5 nights a week on various channels. And now Friday nights on Comedy Central, and you have whatever you have on Netflix, and there's some half hours, and they're doing 15-minute specials, and you have that. And of course, you've always had late night. But what you've never had in any of these spheres was a place for comedians to tell longer stories. Instead of the 4-minute Jay Leno or the Letterman sets, now you have a guy telling an 8-9 minute story. And when you get someone like Drew Carey or Talib Kweli or these guys who normally don't come down from the mountain to bless you with the gym because they're doing other things, or you associate them with other stuff, it's cool. It's very cool. And I was honored to be asked to host it because for me, there should always be a place for comedians to exist and do what they do best, which is tell the truth. And there's enough places to just tell a joke, but here you tell a story. And that's something that I believe creates an environment year after year for other comedians who may not be getting on TV as often or have a style that doesn't always lend itself to 5 minutes on Jimmy Fallon. And they're still waiting on Netflix. They're still working out contracts with HBO and Showtime. But in the meantime, you still get to see a piece of their world. And that's what makes the show.
Right.
It's totally one of a kind.
Yeah, some of these stories are sad or horrifying, but then the humor mixes in it. But so you would never do that as part of your set. You know?
I told a story about the night I met Luther Campbell at a strip party and was honored to have met him. Seth Meyers isn't going to green like that joke. Like, there's just not enough time.
Yeah.
Like, there's no way to tell that story. Like, I have a great story about the time my mother and I met Rod Stewart in London. And that's a 10-minute story. Like, there's just, unless I tell it in an hour special, there's nowhere else for me to tell that story. And you know, my stand-up, it's not inherently storytelling. So for me to tell that type of story during my comedy special would be a departure from what I do traditionally, which doesn't mean I can't do it, but this is a much better place to do it because this is over here. This is what everybody's doing. So it's understood. It's like New Joke Night. It's the train of thought and how this is absorbed by the viewer is different.
Well, do you have to go out and work that story a little bit, or do you go up cold?
Oh no, you worked that story for a year, bro.
Yeah.
Like, easily a year. Most of the comedians that are on This Is Not Happening, they are just refining, and they send the story to the producers who will go through it and look at it. And, you know, by the time I was on the host this year, the lineup had already been selected. So most of these guys had already worked one-on-one with Ari, and Ari is a master storyteller. And there's certain comedians that are just naturals at it. You know, Joey Diaz is a natural. Ali Sadiq is a natural but if you look at their style of stand-up, it's also storytelling. Most of what they do in long form is take you on a journey with a beginning, middle, and end. A lot of my comedy is just me being mad about all the wrong shit. Like that. It's nothing like a Rod Stewart adventure.
But that's true. Like to have good stories happen to you, you normally have to be living an edgier life. Like Stanhope telling you anything from his life is hilarious. You know?
I think all of that, yes to that, but I also think just because there isn't drugs or a dildo or anything crazy involved doesn't mean it's not a good story. You know, there was Lil Rel Howery from the movie Get Out. He told a story this season that's on one of the upcoming episodes about watching his father fight a bunch of gangbangers because they were leaning on his car. And if I remember the story correctly, I think his daddy got his ass whooped, but he got the respect of the gangsters.
Yeah.
And they never touched his car again. Like, it's just weird stuff that you have to figure out a way to make it relatable to the people that are viewing it. And that's what I thought, because that was my first thing when they said, well, we want you to host the show. And I go, okay, but I've never done cocaine. So I don't know what stories I can tell you. I did shrooms once, but nothing happened. Like I didn't go out in public on them. Like I hid in the corner. But like everybody else, their drug stories are in a public place. And I'm like, no, I did shrooms and I stayed in my apartment and I played video games and went to sleep. That's a terrible story.
Right. Yeah.
But you know, you start, the first thing I started doing was just dissecting my life and things that I've gone through. And then I started realizing there's a lot of stuff that's happened to me that's worth talking about on stage. It's just that my comedy was never about me. My stand-up is always about us and what we're going through and what we're experiencing. So it's just a different beat. It's just, you know, if you know how to play guitar, you can play jazz. That's what you've always been known to play. But now they're asking you to come over here and do a little rock or do a little country. For as long as you know how to read music, you can do it. I told a story, I don't think it's on this season, but the time that we did a show for some drug dealers. That's also in the South. You do a lot of shows for drug dealers. Because they do comedy shows to wash their dirty money. Or they do the comedy shows to re-up. Like if you have the basic premise of the story is that they didn't have the money to pay us and they offered to pay us in cocaine. And I didn't know how to sell cocaine. And this is like 2002, so you can't even Google.
Right, yeah.
Because if I'd have Googled it and found out what's the process, how do you, maybe I should get the cocaine. And so it's a story about what happens when you're in one of these impossible situations where someone pulls a gun on you and tells you that you better perform or they're going to put a bullet in your head or I can pay you in cocaine. And it's like, and now I'm supposed to ride home with this? I'm supposed to. He didn't even have bags for it. Like it was a brick, and you got to figure out how to, like, I don't know, do I put it in a Starburst wrapper? Like, how do I transport this cocaine home? So it was a precarious situation, and that was one that I would have never even explored had I not been hosting the show. Because I go, oh yeah, that was funny, that did happen. It just didn't fit my mold of comedy and the type of comedy I enjoy doing.
But see, you're actually doing two gigs now that weren't really of your background, where it's just straight, you know, the comedy news, there's rip from the headlines and storytelling. Both of those opportunities that you got are different than the whole path that you led up to that.
Yeah. Daily Show's probably way closer than the storytelling, for sure. The Daily Show is interesting because so my degree is in broadcast journalism, but I did radio. So I never really, radio is a different style of journalism, especially when you're just doing urban morning radio and just cracking jokes between songs from 6 to 10. It's not the same as hardcore AM, Ed Bradley, serious news magazine stuff. But I did have an interest in it. And the cool thing about the Daily Show is that when I have the bit or the thought about an issue that I can't quite put into words on stage, I know that I can bring it to the show and pitch it, and they'll figure out how to make it work. And it may not even be something that fits for me performatively on the show. It may be something that goes to someone else. We did a couple of segments in 2017 called Black Eye on America, and they were basically just my own weird observations of black issues in the world of journalism. And we basically made a compilation video of all of the stressed out facial expressions that black news pundits make while arguing on cable news. And if you look at it, you could see over the course of a couple of years, like we pulled footage of Angela Rye from CNN from 2015, like pre-Trump, post-Trump. And like you could see just the gradual, and Don Lemon, we all know the evolution of Don Lemon. Don Lemon was astute and upright, and I'm Don Lemon. And now he's like, are you ready? Are you done? Get off my show. I'm drunk. I want a tattoo. Like, this man is drunk on New Year's Eve getting tattoos on live television. So there's something there's something in the water with this. And that's something that I can't perform on stage, but on the show with clips and proper editing, I can get that point across more clearly on the show than I ever could on stage.
Well, we're sitting here talking about never knowing where opportunity is going to come in. The fact that Trevor Noah has that show is like one of the craziest things, that a kid could grow up in South Africa, come here, get that show, and be talking to Americans about their own news. Mm-hmm. It's nobody saw that coming.
No, nobody. And I think him coming from, like, how crazy is it that we were able to hire a guy like, you're from a place that's kind of worse than here. Could you come over here and help us make sense of our nonsense?
Right. Yeah.
Like, because I don't want to get into the segregation versus apartheid argument. We could I don't want to start oppression. My struggle was more struggle than your struggle. I don't want that argument, but he's definitely had a lot of parallels growing up to what we experience here today. So thankfully, a lot of what he's talking about isn't unfamiliar territory to him. And I think I tell him this every day. I'm like, you better than me, man, because I would just be cussing. Like, Like, I feel like I can only speak for myself. I can't speak for other hosts, but I know for me emotionally, I'm too close to all of this stuff. I grew up in a pretty bad neighborhood in Birmingham, Alabama, and I've seen enough people affected by enough things in this country that for me to be able to go on the air and be level-headed enough to make sure that the jokes land, because comedy is the priority, because you're coming to us to be able to laugh a little bit while getting the truth. So we have to take the comedy part of it seriously. Otherwise, we're just another news show. And that's the one thing that delineates us. So we have to prioritize comedy. And comedy that comes from a level-headed place is inherently different from angry comedy. You can go more places when you're calm, comedically, and still deliver the truth, still call out the bullshit, and still be able to do the job the right way. And I think Trevor being from another country helps him keep the ship on that course comedically, because I know if it was me and I'm hosting and one of them crooked ass police verdicts came down and we go live that night, I'm like, let me tell y'all about these assholes here.
Yeah.
And that's not funny.
Right. But do you think maybe because he even grew up where he grew up, he sees the way, how long it takes for any kind of change to make? Or because he seems to be very even all the time.
Yeah, I think Trevor is from a country that was, 10 to 20 years ahead of America when it comes to some degree of racial reconciliation. And they still have their issues in South Africa, and I can't speak to it in depth, but they're definitely in a different area politically than America is, which is ironic considering that desegregation ended before apartheid.
Right. I mean, they were way behind us for decades.
Correct. And so, there's a lot of different things. I mean, it's all kinds of stuff going on in South Africa now. Like, they're taking land away from white farmers who got the land illegally, or the land was never, they never had a right to purchase the land because the land was illegally obtained by white people in the past. So that's insane to just have black people rolling up to white farmers and going, yeah, this was never your land. You've got 2 days. Go call a U-Haul.
Yeah.
And they are compliant, and they're like, okay, I understand that. That's not cool, but let's figure it out. That could never happen. Could you imagine if black people in New Orleans rolled up to the areas that have been gentrified post-Katrina and said, hey, man, I kind of lived here before Katrina. I'm going to need the keys to your condo.
Yeah, and it's not happening.
It would never happen.
Yeah.
So even in that regard, they're a little bit ahead of the curve. So I think Trevor knows that, and he's able to use that because it gives him a different perspective on everything.
I was actually just thinking that Trump basically ran on the fear that might happen someday. You know what I mean? Like, here, there's this thing of the whole "Make America Great Again." is almost like we're looking back at some imaginary great time that took place.
Yeah, I just think we're just going through a full reboot. Like, you see they're bringing back all these 90s shows.
Right, yeah.
And Trump is just bringing back 50s America.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, let's just go. Wouldn't it be nice if there were no trans people in the military, right? Oh, no? Okay.
Yeah.
Like, Trump loves to throw stuff out, then back off of it. Like a dude trying to get laid. Wouldn't it be nice if you came up to my room? I mean, but if you don't want to, it's cool. It's cool. If you don't want to come up, it's cool. We can just stay down here at the bar. No problem.
But that is such a, because he has such energy and there's something different happening every day with him. It's almost, I think, tougher for comedy, because you could do a Bush joke that would last a while, or a Clinton joke that would last a while. You could write a great Trump joke, and 3 days later, it's toast.
3 days. Try 12 hours. We almost didn't do a Space Force joke. Like, when you look at the way the news cycle goes, you know, we're on a 12-hour news cycle, and we tape at 6 o'clock. Trump does the space. We should have a Air Force, a Navy, and a Space Force. He drops that quote around 5 o'clock. At that point, we're already in rewrite. We're 30, 40 minutes from taping the show.
Yeah.
It's too late. And if you do a joke, it's going to be a quick and passing joke.
Yeah.
You really want to take time to digest and really flesh. This quote is so crazy, it needs to be explored. And so then the debate the next day was, he said this at 5 p.m. on a Monday. Is a Space Force joke still funny at 11 p.m. on Tuesday?
Right. And that would have that line would have followed, let's say, George Bush for 5 years. We would have been calling him Commander of Space Force for 5 years.
For 5 years. That would have just been Lieutenant Commander of the Space. But to be fair, Bush only dropped a scandal like twice a year.
Right. Yes, exactly.
Like, Trump is like the binge model, where you get like 40 scandals at one time. You can't even take them all in and say, well, Space Force, but the porn star wants some money and he's got to pay the porn star. What? He fired the dude? Oh my God, he fired another dude. Oh.
Yeah.
Like, that's what we're up against, where you literally don't know. He fired the dude. There's a Space Force. What, he's going to North Korea? Oh my God, he's going to meet with the North sanctions. What do you mean sanctions in Russia? Like, you can't keep up with all of it. So you literally have to pick two things and just hope that those jokes are unique enough.
But you will, with that show, with the Daily Show, maybe you have to just shake everything within a matter of hours. So it's just like, well, this just popped up today. Let's move everything.
You got to go. You got to go where everything is, you know. And the people who have it even harder are the digital expansion department, who do a lot of our web content, because they're able to do stuff that we know won't make it on the show, but they have to respond. Like, you want to talk about a quick response, you have to be on it. They're even more stressed because they have to do jokes within the hour, because if it's going to be something the internet's going to joke about, it's stale within 2 hours. You've heard all the jokes, you've seen them all. When Scaramucci got fired, Scaramucci got fired at Friday at 5 o'clock. Our building usually empties out around 4:30 on a Friday because it's just a writing day. The rumors start. The digital expansion team goes, okay, we're going to stay. Let's see what happens. And he gets fired at, let's say, 5:20. By 5:40, we have jokes on the internet about him, because we don't have a broadcast, but we have to be in the conversation constantly now, because politics is moving so fast that's part of why the digital department is just as important as the broadcast wing of the show, because we have to constantly be on top of things. When Frances McDormand had her Oscar stolen, her Oscar was stolen on a Sunday night. And you got the guy going around taking selfies with her Oscar. And so our digital department, within 12 hours, created a 3 billboards parody picture of Frances McDormand demanding answers as to where her Oscar was. And that's the type of thing, if you wait too late into the night.
Exactly.
There's no joke on it. And there's definitely no joke to be said on Monday night about a stolen Oscar on Sunday, not in depth. You can do a quick one-liner and keep it moving. But the digital department, it's even harder for them, because they have to be on alert around the clock, because you don't know when the shit's going to hit the fan with this guy. anytime. It could. You never know. Is Omarosa fired? I don't know. But let's get some stuff ready just in case.
And suddenly, comedy is the fire department now, where a bell goes off and everybody's going to start running.
Yeah.
It never used to happen that way. Carson used to take weeks off at a time, and everyone just waited for him to come back.
Suicide.
Yeah.
Suicide.
Yeah.
The only reason John Oliver is able to do it because his show is not topical in the sense of here's today's issue.
Yeah.
Like the way someone explained it to me beautifully is that John Oliver doesn't always talk about the weather. He talks about the climate. And so it's more of the totality of an issue and where we are as a whole. And the first act of his show, there's some topical stuff that's happened then, but you know the style of show that Oliver's doing. And they're comfortable in that. And also the stuff that they do takes so damn long to research. They deserve a couple weeks off.
Right. Yeah.
But I can't think of anyone else in the unscripted political sector that takes more than a week or maybe 10 days off at a time. And Oliver goes months. He's the only one that does it.
Well, let's talk about this pilot because this is another, kind of a left-hand turn for you. You'd be doing a different type of show completely again, right?
Yeah. So the show is called Reestablished, and it's a buddy comedy about two probation officers and them working their caseload in a city in the South. And I'm producing it with Trevor Noah and Aaron Magruder, who's the creator of the Boondocks. And the goal of the show is, of course, to be funny, but to also kind of shine a light on a wing of law enforcement that I don't think we know that much about, and also shine a light on a group of Americans that we don't know much about and that we also tend to dismiss because they made a mistake. And I think there's a lot of comedy in that world. And there's also a lot of truth about what happens when the criminal justice system lets people down, what happens when 2 or 3 things go wrong for a person and they're back in jail, or what happens when you have someone in the judicial system who doesn't care about you and you go back to jail, even though you might be a good person. So there's a lot of different avenues of morality that we can explore with the show. And I'm just excited that Comedy Central gave me a chance to do something this damn complicated.
Comedically, the thing I think that's so brilliant about it is you get to move different characters through your show all the
Correct.
time. So that's always the best kind of comedy to have. If you could think of a reason to bring somebody in for an episode or two, that could kill it for you.
Yeah, it definitely helps, and those are also people that you can revisit. Now, the show won't feel like Reno 911, but that's the type of show where you had the core officers, and then you had the people in the community who they were either arresting or chasing, and there were randoms, but there were also recurring people who they were always having to deal with and always having to tend to their problems. And I think that's a place where you can get a lot of ripe comedy. With what they're doing right now with Atlanta. Atlanta does something similar, but they do it with a lot of people that you would have never. I don't like the phrase no names, but actors that have been undiscovered and that you don't know anything about. And you drop them into this world with Donald Glover and his co-stars, and you see what happens. Cat Williams was in the premiere, and he plays Glover's uncle. And so now all I'm waiting on is I can't wait till Cat Williams comes back.
Yeah.
And you're able to bring in these cool co-star elements and stuff. But, much like The Daily Show, first and foremost, it's got to be funny. You can worry about all that message shit later. That's first
make
and foremost,
it funny,
you make it funny.
It'll all come through.
And I think if you base it in truth in that world, I think it's something that will honor those people. I've done, I'd say about 8 hours of interviews with various probation officers in the New York City probation system, as well as some down south. And because I really want to make sure that we nail the nuance of this occupation, because it's not one that's glamorous. It's not a lot of foot chasing and all of that stuff, but probation officers spend the most time with anyone that's arrested in any branch of law enforcement. Everybody else is either taking you to jail or making sure you stay in jail. A probation officer is the only one trying to make sure you stay out of jail.
Yeah. And the burnout of that job's got to be pretty amazing too, because you become fond of someone and they screw up again.
Yeah. And so that's kind of what we're trying to explore a little bit with the show is, what leads to those mistakes and how do those mistakes affect you as a law enforcement officer, especially when in a lot of districts, this is a little known fact, and I didn't know this until I did the interviews, a lot of police officers don't like probation officers. There's a legitimate butting of the heads because in a cop's mind, in a lot of cops' minds, it's lock them up. They should be in jail. In a probation officer's mind, it's, wait, let's not lock them up. Let's figure out why and what and how. And the cop is like, no, lock him up. And there's instances sometimes where they're both not wrong, which is interesting to me because there have been cases in this country where someone on probation who did something wrong was given another chance and they went out and killed somebody or hit somebody or domestic violence. Like there's just, the list goes on and on. But then there's also great stories of people who are given second chances and they went on to make something of themselves. And how do you discern between the two when all you have is a facial expression and a file to look at? How do you assess these people?
Well, you never see a politician run on rehabilitation. They always run on punishment. And then those guys get out after, we've taken away their TVs or, whatever. And they come out angry and it doesn't really fit society. But this thing is it's always such a long haul to help somebody get over any kind of what I would consider mental illness in a lot of ways. Yeah, and a lot of it, you could even call it PTSD in a lot of regards. If you talk about the violence in a lot of communities and what a lot of people come up dealing with, that contributes sometimes to a feeling of helplessness, and you may end up going back to a life of crime or whatever. But it's something that I think. It's a story that matters, and it's a story that's rarely told, if ever told, in the research that I've done in terms of television shows that are out there. Right. So
I'm excited about it.
Have you shot the pilot yet? Or are you writing it?
No, Aaron and I are still scribbling out the pilot and just getting all the beats of it together. And then I figure at some point we'll shoot down south this spring, and it needs to be the spring because the South after April.
Yes.
Like I'm writing a script and I just keep trying to write indoor scenes because I know the humidity and the mosquitoes. I just know it's going to be torture, but that's part of the story, and it's got to be down south. I don't want to cheat that.
Well, that is something that you bring. You're not a East Coast, West Coast guy, and you keep that Alabama thing in your comedy all the time. And there's a comfort for you too with your childhood, right? With that background.
I also feel like I'm one of the few people that has the rare opportunity to change perceptions of Southern living. So if I have an opportunity to put a camera on something that's happening in the South, it's not going to be people barefoot on a dirt road, or it's not going to be slavery. For those stories have been told. And there's a lot of good people just living a regular, normal life, and they are not like a judge who may have dated a 14-year-old
right,
and then ran for Senate in Alabama. We're not all like that.
Yeah.
And then, it's also important for me because, I don't know who's watching me. Like I've credited, I'll talk about like people like, oh, these are the people I watched when I started. These are the comedians that I always loved. But for me, the comedian that really convinced me that I could do this for a living was a guy named Ricky Smiley. And so Ricky Smiley is also from Birmingham and dominated comedy and has a syndicated show with numbers neck and neck with Steve Harvey and Tom Joyner nationally. But at the time, in the 90s, Ricky got on BET's Comic View and screamed Alabama from the top of his lungs. It wasn't even a joke. He's just a dude from Alabama on TV, and he just, Alabama! And nobody will ever understand what that meant to me because Ricky Smiley is from 4 exits up the freeway from me. And in the South, you're bred to believe that what you do doesn't matter or that you could never make it. Like this world of entertainment is painted as some sort of faraway galaxy that you must, the odds of you ever getting over there to Hollywood. And it's not that hard. It's around the corner. It's not, you just have to get up and work for it. And so I bought into that for a while. I bought into the fact that, well, I'm in Alabama. I'm just go get me a job and then get a wife and Jesus and then eat macaroni on chicken on Sundays. And then you see this dude from your hometown on TV saying he's from Alabama. We've had people from Alabama do stuff, but it's mostly athletics or it's music. He did what I do. We do the same thing.
Right.
And he made it? Oh, hell. Well, then where do I sign up for open mic? And I'll never forget how seeing Ricky Smiley made me feel. So anytime I get an opportunity, yeah, if I get on TV, I gotta, not every time, but I gotta make sure that people know that, as Andre 3000 said, people gotta know that the South got something to say.
Right.
And that's really important to me. And I may not even shoot the show in Alabama. I don't know if we'll be able to. I don't know the tax laws as far as the entertainment tax incentives or whatever, but for as long as it's the South, then people in the South all know that they matter. They see their stories and their experiences being represented. Then that, to me, that's worth something. That's very important.
It is funny. I mean, to this day, there's a part of the South that is really misunderstood or underappreciated or just seen as far away, you know?
Yeah, it's and there are bad parts of the South. Yeah. There are bad people down there. There is racism, but there's also amazing music and culture and people, and it's a lot of good things are still coming out of this place. So nothing is one-dimensional, you know? And I think it's important to just be able to try and paint those stories and just show the complexities of that type of life.
So this is the dream show for you. This, out of everything that you've done, it all seems to be coming to this place. Do you feel that way? Or, I mean, you're working with people. If you just look who your partner's on this with, imagine thinking about that 5-10 years ago. I wouldn't have
thought that. I wouldn't have thought that I would have that opportunity to tell that story. I'm just, from a failure standpoint, I'm leery of ever stopping and looking back at anything or taking assessment of it. Because to me, it's just work, do the work. Don't stop, do the work. Because you stop to go, yeah, I done all right. Then that's when it's juggling, and you start with 2 balls and then 3 balls, then a chainsaw and an apple, and at no point can you say, ooh, I'm juggling apples and chips. Your arm is cut off. So I'd rather focus, you know, and it is dope. And, you know, to me, my dream would be able to pull a Will Packer or Oprah Winfrey or now a Gerard Carmichael and have a production deal and be able to green light other shows and create opportunities for other people, especially people of color. Like that's the dream, is like being able to leave something. Because, you know, let's be real about entertainment and what it is. You know, I'm 39 and I'll be 40 at the end of this year. So best case scenario, no ageism involved, I probably get to 55 years old in front of the camera for most comedic roles. There's not a lot of there's fewer comedic lead roles the older you get, and even fewer for men of color. So at that point, my brain now is thinking about that point. So now at that point, I need to have built enough equity with my fans over the next 15 years to make sure that I can tour until I die off of everything I did in that 10 to 15 year stretch. And also in that time, make sure that I now have a house of creation set up for other people coming after me, where I can create opportunities for them as well. And then also make them write into the show a role for a 55-year-old man.
Well, I'll tell you this, and you know I've been a fan of yours for a while. You're already beating the odds, and keep juggling those chainsaws, my man.
Thank you,
you
sir.
so much.
I appreciate it.
Roywood Jr., this
you
is
all.
not happening. Fridays, midnight, Comedy Central. Thank you so much.
Thank you, man. You made me sound intelligent. Thank you all.